And we should be here.
Hello.
Should be here, should be vibing.
Excellent. I heard of something, so we are good to go.
Oh, sweet.
Hello, chat.
Hello.
We have a stream for you.
I'm not dead for like the first time in a month.
Matt gets to exist in this universe. We finally get to exist and actually cover some stuff. Just in time for the new thing to be released that we have to cover again.
Oh, it's so great. Such good timing on my boss to allow me to have a day off.
Excellent time. Hi V, how's it going? Also, hello Alcus, you've been here, so I figure I'll say hello on the actual stream. Alright.
No, it's not allowed, Jason. We're not allowed to say hi to Alcus.
No, can't say hello.
Nope.
No Guten Morgen or whatever.
No Guten Morgen.
No butchering the German language today.
Nope.
Let me see. I'm gonna double check one thing to be 100% sure and make sure I'm getting my numbers right before I start saying things. But, so chat, welcome to your first bit of input. Here's the truth of the matter here. We have 76 commanders in Doctor Who. It's a lot of them. And there's pretty much no way that we're going to get through all of them today. And it's also important to note that 46 of them are partners of some type, Doctor's Companion or actual factual partner. So, because there are so many commanders, we basically can kind of split it up into two groups. Ones that are partners and ones that are not partners. So, I'm going to see if I can actually do a poll. Or if I have lost my ability to poll things. I can't remember if I'm able to do that in here anymore. This is what happens when you don't moderate in your chat for a while. But group polling, basically, just give me a partners or no partners in chat, which one you would like us to start on. Partners would include all of the doctors. Non-partners would include all of the monocolor things and like the Grixis villains. Let us know which one of those you would rather us start with, and we'll go with those for today. Because we're probably only going to have enough time to complete one or the other. But do be warned, even if we spend like 3 hours on stream today, we're probably not getting through all of the partners. Because partners are hard to grade.
Partners are hard to grade. Oh, I don't know. Some of these are bad enough that we can potentially not grade them super well.
I mean, maybe, but at the same time, it's also like, there's so many niche things that can go on. We're just like, oh, this contributes in a meaningful way. It's just not that good, right? Like, we'll get to, like, take Yasmin Khan, for example, who's basically just tap, draw a card, right? Like...
Ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
Jason did not actually get a poll out.
Yeah, I thought I was able to, but maybe I can't.
Doctor's Companion or Multicolor, right?
So we have an entire tab just for Doctor's Companion, but
yeah, partners or
and if we do start, I would probably just go into the actual partners section because there are two partner pairings, like partners with partners pairings. Also, to everyone in the chat, reminder that we do have Zur Scale is available for you to view in the description. So if you would like to have it open and looking at it on your own, so as you're poking through things, you are perfectly able to do so, and we highly encourage you to do that, especially because you may sit there and go, wait, but what about this commander? And you can actually this later, but we encourage that at a different time. So far we've only got one person who said, but there we go.
We have an
See,
actual
now the question is whether or not I vote.
Your vote, the one that makes it easy on us.
I mean, my personal vote is to go through the regular legends. It's a less fun thing to cover because people are here for the doctors more than anything, but it's the one that we will actually complete if we do it. So it means like super meaningful progress. But at the same time, I know people like partners and they want to talk about the Doctor and their favorite characters. So completely understand either way.
I just want to talk about David Tennant, so we're gonna do that either way.
Looks like we want to go through the regular legends this time.
I'm down.
All right, that's perfectly fine by me. They're actually pretty quick to move through.
The regular legends are a lot more interesting than half the Doctors are.
And so we'll just go through it through the colors quickly then, because I think there's 30 or 20, 26 or so. Yes. Good night to you, Alcus. Enjoy your midnight.
He exists for exactly 30 minutes in the pre-stream chat, and then he just bails on us. What a guy.
All right, so I guess we're starting off with we're doing our regular legendaries. We'll get through that. So to start in the mono white section, there's like 1 or 2 mono white commanders, I think.
I was gonna say
there's 2 mono white commanders. So we got Astrid Perth.
I'm just gonna go ahead and Wilfred Mott. Oop. Okay, Astrid Perth.
Okay. A 2-mana 2/2 human that enters the battlefield or attacks to make a food, and then when you sacrifice a food or a clue, she gets to explore. That's honestly not bad.
Not terrible.
No, it's not. It's not particularly strong though, because mono white doesn't have the most synergies here with these things.
Mono white can at least make some clues, but that's about it.
I will immediately say if this had Doctor's Companion, it would be cracked, but I don't know this character.
Yeah, no.
Tablet typing, fun. So I'm immediately inclined to say, like, I'm willing to go almost up to a 4 on this commander, but I think it's a 3. It's fine.
Yeah, I can definitely give it a 3. I can't give it a 4 because there's just not. White can somewhat make food. It's just not very good at it. It's the same with clues.
Yeah, and EDH Rec unfortunately is not going to provide us a lot of data here because there's only 6 decks.
Yeah.
So we really don't get a lot, and obviously a lot of the stuff is, or some of the items at least, are themed around the Doctor Who cards, which may not actually help that much, but they help some.
Now, this card is cracked in your Lord of the Rings pre-con upgrade, though.
What do you do with food in white besides crack it? I mean, that's kind of the issue.
Yeah.
White does not have a whole lot it can do with food aside from cracking it. It can do a little bit with clues. I mean, I guess it can do a little bit with just generic artifact things, but it can't do much with generic artifact things, and that's the big weakness here. I think just the raw power of this card itself, because like its power, like the power level of the card itself is like a 4, but the support is just not there. Actually, I'd even go as far as to say that the power level of the card, if you were able to give it multiple colors, would be like a 5, but we're stuck in mono white, and that's the problem.
Yeah, if this had Bant, oh my goodness.
Yeah, if this was just a Bant card, even at 3 mana, I would say that this would be a really good card if it was a Bant card. It would make sense in Bant too. Yeah, I think normal 3, optimized 3.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Support's really what's dragging it down, putting it at like a 5 or a 6.
I'm gonna give it more on the 5. There's just not enough good cards.
Yeah, and there's not a lot for it to do. So I think no comment on that. Beyond that, like 3/3/5/2/5 seems good to me. The card itself is very powerful. The support is bad, and that's just petering out into something worse.
Yep.
Unfortunate, because I do like that card. All right, Mr. Wilfred, what do you do?
Yeah, that's a great question.
All right, so 4 mana 2/4 human soldier. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a time counter on Wilfred. Look at the top X cards of your library where X is the number of time counters on it. You may put a non-land permanent card, mana value 3 or less from among those onto the battlefield, and the rest on the bottom in a random order. Huh.
You know,
It's really not bad.
I don't hate this.
It's actually quite good.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a value deck that's able to generate quite a bit of resources. White's the best color for protecting. Well, you can debate on where counterspells fall, but white's the best color for protecting individual permanents. So
This is like pretty much as foretold what in white.
yeah, the thing is though, like obviously the first time you do this, you're probably never hitting, like ever. Honestly, the first 2 times probably aren't even hitting. It's the third time onward. So our commander really isn't. Yeah, 4 mana in mono white is also an issue.
Yep. Diego, that is why it is not great.
I have to imagine we don't have like any decks on EDH Rec for this guy. 11. We have 11 in total. And the decks that are being played are like CEDH stacked decks. Cool. I mean, yeah, that makes sense, honestly. Like,
we got to break parity somehow, right?
yeah, making a very, very cheap value engine stacks commander out of this makes a lot of sense. And that's honestly probably the route I would end up taking it as well. Like, you need every single small creature you're playing to be very impactful. Only 27% of the 11 decks are playing Mana Crypt. Which, to be fair, it means that not necessarily everyone building this deck, even though we have a lot of stacks pieces, not everyone building this deck is building it as high power as they could go to like the CDH sphere of things. Not playing many utility lands.
I mean, I wouldn't be playing many utility lands. But
no, making this using rule of law as your means of breaking parity here. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
This honestly seems like if you build this as a stacks deck, this seems kind of average. The getting to 4 mana part is the hard part of this, because your commander functionally does not do like anything until let's assume you at least get a 2 mana rock in play here, right? You're missing on your first hit, you're probably missing on your second hit, you're probably hitting on your third hit. It's turn 6 when your commander has done something.
Yeah, that's just way too long. That is way too long in the game.
Yeah, and you can use proliferate stuff to try to, bridge between first turn and the second turn to make it actually hit something. But it's really hard because you can't hit lands. If you could hit lands, this would be very easy.
Yeah, this would actually be like an above average deck if you could hit lands, because you're always hitting, right? But
yeah, you're hitting way more times than not if you could hit lands with this guy, and I don't think that'd be unreasonable. But also, it has to be no matter what, the permanent has to be mana value 3 or less, which means big spells really narrow. Yeah, white does not proliferate particularly well. It's got a couple of effects in there, like Graceful Apparition, but it just doesn't do great with this. I think... Oh, man, we on a 3 with this guy?
I think I'm on a 3.
I could maybe go and give it a 4 or 5 when you optimize it because of the fast mana.
I can go up to a 5 even. Just like getting this guy out.
Mm-hmm. And like support is kind of here. It's not great, but it's here. Probably 6 on the support. Like there's plenty of small creatures and small things we want to ramp into. Or we want to get out and persistently find more of. It's just this deck doesn't win the game particularly well. It just clogs up the game very well. I think I'm putting a 4 for it. No, I'm probably going to put it a 3 for its power level. It does have some flexibility that we just aren't really addressing. But, like, I don't know if we actually want to go down the route of that flexibility because, how much do I care about playing Soldier Typal here or humans when all I really want to just be doing is staxing my opponent? Yeah. Turn 1 Planeswitch Jeweled Lotus is like... I mean, the difference is fast mana.
Yeah, the entire difference is fast mana on this one. It's not even close. Alright, and with that, we move on from white. I know that there's a mono blue.
I believe there are 2 mono blues because we have Dr. Osgood and we have Danny Pink. Again, I know none of these characters, so just trying to figure out who you. Should we start with Danny?
I guess we have to start with Danny.
All right. So, a 4-mana human soldier advisor with mentor and other creatures you control whenever one or more counters are put onto this creature for the first time each turn, draw a card.
He's an honorary merfolk.
Okay, that's weirdly true. So, like, there's... Man, this is a card where I'm sitting here going, like, man, if we were in white, this would be so easy to make good.
Mm-hmm. Or
Blue...
if we were in Simic, this is absolute value town right here. Like,
yeah, Simic would go insane with this. Being monocolored really is restrictive here, but at the same time, this is not that bad. It's like I'm just thinking of the situations like you could play an artifact creature style deck, for example, and artifact creature decks actually have a relatively easy time putting 1/1 counters onto all of their stuff.
Yeah, I actually think Danny's decently strong.
Danny himself, like, giving this ability to all of your creatures is really strong. I do not care about this mentor. I do not. The stat line's actually kind of funny that this thing's a 4/3 in mono blue.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, mono blue affinity is kind of where I'm thinking here. Those sorts of decks are going to be what makes Danny good. Although I have to imagine there's some sort of 1/1 counter deck that I'm not thinking of. I guess it is worth mentioning. Any creature that enters the battlefield with 1/1 counters on it would trigger this. So that's why I'm sitting here thinking about like modular as one of the ways of triggering this card.
It is also any counter gets it.
Yes, any counter does it as well, which I don't know how well we're gonna get any counter. Yes, convoking out a Zephyr Singer would be doing that as well. Absolutely. So I don't know how great we are at putting 1/1 counters on things otherwise, but looking at the card on EDH Rec at the moment, like, Matt, can you show that?
I can attempt to show it now if
see if it's loading well for you.
If old Chrome here doesn't decide to do the fucky wucky.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention why we were slightly delayed is we were having issues loading images. Not sure why. Hey, look, on our Merfolk.
Oh, look at him. The fish.
Yeah. So we got these cards that care about when you draw your second card each turn, you get a 1/1 counter onto it, which would trigger themselves to draw another card, which is great synergy pieces. We have all this proliferate stuff that's really good here. Playing Kosi's Trickster to force our opponent to shuffle their deck. Neat.
We have Crystalline Crawler, the absolute all-star in this deck.
This is one of those decks that I feel like, as in traditional blue fashion, is very good at spinning its wheels, and I'm not sure how good it is at actually winning the game. Charge counters do work here as well. It just needs to make sure that we're putting it onto creatures specifically. So, like cards like Ledger Shredder, for example, I think there's enough here that I'm willing to say that there is enough support that this is a decent deck.
I'm willing to give this thing a 5.
I think it's a pretty, I think this can be an average deck. It will be wheel spinny, but I think it can definitely be an average deck, and that's a nice thing.
I don't know that it actually wheel spins that much, just because
creatures should be getting huge,
big.
yeah. I'm saying what's the name of that card again? The Ozolith, right? Like, this is a good Ozolith deck.
Oh, this is an insane Ozolith deck.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you can you can do dumb Hangerback Walker things as well. I think Hangerback Walker is a really cool card in this deck.
And we get to Sage of Hours? Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can't say with certainty as to whether or not an artifact-centric build is a better build of this deck, or if generic 1/1 counter stuff is good, is where you want to be. I think there's enough flexibility here that we actually have a pretty decent deck.
Yeah, I think we just generic 1/1 counter it up with this.
So 5-6 maybe.
I'm willing to go 5-6.
This is kind of, I think the 6 is kind of like a benefit of the doubt 6 for me. Like, I think there's something here. I just don't know quite where we're at to make that happen. I really like the synergy with like the Fairy Vandal and the Thopter Mechanist. Oh yeah, Axis Soul Cauldron. Oh, be still not beating hard. How we love you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna be able to draw a lot of cards. We'll be able to do apply some good tempo. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just like an effective mid-range deck. I think this is just good.
Yeah, this is just really good.
Maybe we should be just putting this as a 6.
Yeah, the more I think about it, especially just 1/1 counters, have just gotten synergy.
Yeah, the support for this is way better than I thought it was when I went into this, because like there's no way there's enough 1/1 counter synergies. But the more I look at it, the more I'm just like, yeah, the support is actually just insane. Like we have an 8 or a 9 on the support here, probably an 8 technically.
Oh, Toothy is literally just a god in this deck.
Oh yeah, 2D plus Flicker stuff always does good stuff, and just
Yeah.
Yeah, the card that Seaboard Sammy, like this card absolutely can go insane, and that's why I'm inclined to say it is probably a baseline 6 then, and I'll give it benefit of the doubt 7. Flexibility is honestly better than you would expect.
You have a lot of stuff to play. Like,
yeah, it's still probably a pretty low flexibility, like a 3, but
I kind of
it's pretty flexible.
I kind of want to build this for the channel.
I think that'd be a cool one. It's kind of like a kind of off meta in a sense because of just how weird 1/1 counters are in blue currently.
Hi,
Clodsire. How's it going?
That makes sense, Sammy.
I thought it might have been just in case. Once I saw Seedborn, I was like, Seedborn Sammy? Yeah, that's probably Clodsire, but thank you for confirming. All right, Sammy. It's time for me to shit on your new favorite deck.
This deck is Cheeks in mono blue.
All right, so good. I have not gotten to I have gotten to play against Osgood a few times now from Sammy's build of the deck. Without even going into what EDH Rec is doing specifically. We've got Osgood, and then we have things like Unwinding Clock and Clock of Omens shenanigans that we're doing here to tap and untap the clues that we're making to generate a lot of mana, to find ways to turn that into card advantage. But to get there, we have to do some kind of bad spells. Like, we're foretelling cards, we're playing flashback spells, and there's really not that many good flashback spells in the deck. You also want more than 2 copies of Osgood in play if you can help it, which is not easy.
Yeah.
The card quality in the deck is the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, in like the quite literal sense.
Magus of the Future.
Mm-hmm.
Urza the Lord High Artificer.
Yeah.
And then we have to play Star Whale.
Yeah, you gotta play Star Whale in your deck. It should be fair, this is probably more of like a pre-con based thing, right? But like, a Rift from Cloudskate is not exactly the card you want to be playing.
Oh, yikes. Okay, never mind.
Playing adventure spells to try to get them into exile so that you can cast the creature side later, like Merfolk's Secret Keeper. Yeah, playing Dream Twist in your deck, unironically, because it puts cards into your graveyard and is cast from your graveyard. Like, ooh, the quality.
Ooh, it's bad. It's real bad.
Yeah, the card quality is real rough here. But you can generate some really cool stuff when you are given enough time to really get going. Can you pay for Suspend with Osgood? I believe Osgood specifies that she can only use this to cast artifact spells specifically, or activate the abilities of artifacts. So, yeah, you cannot use that to put something on Suspend.
Now, you can suspend your slow ring with it, Jason.
No.
Is Suspend not an activated ability?
Is it? I don't know.
That's-
Yeah, maybe you're able to do that one. Yeah, I'd have to double check exactly what suspend is, as opposed to if it's just paying a cost or if it's an activated ability. I don't believe it's an activated ability. I'd have to double check. It may be special action. So, yeah, it's it's rough out here for for the team here. I think just the card quality is so low with what Osgood wants.
we have to give it a 2 just because the card quality is so low.
Well, that's great because there's 2 of them.
Exactly.
Osgood's actually, she's not terrible. It's just the support is bad. Like it's really rough, and you do not have flexibility. Like there's very little flexibility, I should say.
I don't know. I think this has genuinely worse support than as a whole. That has a 3 up above it.
Oh, I think it's worse than Nezahal. I think just ramping into a Nezahal and trying to play a control game with Nezahal is a more effective deck than Osgood.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of how many pieces you have to get going to try to do something. Like I've lost to this deck, and I immediately acknowledge, like, yes, it took you a 14 mana combo to get to the point of killing me.
Yeah, that's
like I acknowledge you were able to do something good, but I'm also going to say it took 14 mana in your mono blue deck.
That's a bit of a yikes for me.
Yeah. And I do think you can optimize the deck for it to be better, but at the same time, I don't think it's easy, because like you don't get your easy win buttons with stuff like Underworld Breach, right? You would have to try to set up something real strong with like Mind's Desire to really pop off. And even then, if we're Mind's Desiring, like, do I want to be playing Osgood for my Mind's Desire commander?
No. 2/2.
2/2. All right. There are no mono black commanders in this set.
It's actually kind of strange.
Yeah, I know. It's a little weird. I would have thought there would be more. But I'll double check to be 100% sure. But yeah, there's no mono black. So there's a single mono commander, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's a quick one.
Oh boy, Battle Cry is awful. So
I like Battle Cry as a mechanic. It's just, hey, we're casting cards from other zones, and the reward is a 2/2 alien.
Wait a
on our
minute.
format commander, it's not terrible, and honestly, red casts from other zones better than blue does. Although I think blue is probably the second best at doing that.
Wait a minute. We already have this card.
Do we?
But it's Gruul and not red.
Oh, you're right. The 2-mana version of this thing? Yeah. It's pretty easy to just look at what Faldorn does and go, okay, are you actually better than Faldorn?
No.
Yeah. It's... Although, does Faldorn say any zone, or is it just Exile? I believe it's just Exile with Faldorn, right?
It's just Exile.
Mm-hmm. So, and I think Faldorn's an average deck. Like, the more I see her, the more I'm like, okay, maybe she's like a 4 as opposed to a 5, but I still think she fits around that area, because she also gets lands, which this one does not get lands. This one's only when you cast spells.
Which, I mean, it's red. This is really easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just your payoff. Like, generic 2/2s are not good in mono red.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, generic 2/2s can actually do something in Gruul.
And again, I will give the credit of Battle Cry does help a fair bit, actually.
Yeah.
Right. But we're not getting there too quick. We're doing some cool tappy untappy, getting some stuff going. But honestly, the deck feels like a 3 at best for me.
Yeah. It's definitely a 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think it's not a bad low-powered commander. It is just definitively a pretty low-powered commander, though. The support's good. Flexibility's not good.
We're allowed to play uncommons in our PEDH games, right?
Yes.
All right.
This is an uncommon. You can in fact play this as your commander in a PEDH format.
I kind of don't hate it there. but that's about it.
Yeah, it's not bad, but given a 3/3 rating there, I'd be interested to see how it can do there. You do lose a lot of your like persisting sources of card advantage if you cut out the rares, but I don't think that's necessarily bad. You can get away with it.
Mono green.
Mono green. I think we have one for mono green.
Yeah, it's
The dog.
the really weird card.
He got that dog, and then what'd he do?
He makes
so
humans
us-
indestructible.
At sorcery speed.
Whew. So
Oh,
good.
baby. Look at that 2 mana baking arc. We're playing mono green humans.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yeah. I will at least give it that being a 5 mana vigilance, trample, haste that anthems up your humans on every attack is actually pretty nice.
Yeah, like this. Damn it. This is really strong. Right here. Just when it attacks, put a 1/1 counter on each human.
Yeah.
Very strong. The secondary flavor text on this card that is this Lupari shield.
Yeah, the Lupari shield thing maybe comes up. You would have to be sitting in a situation of a very heads-up play to think, I have spare mana and I want to protect my board, so I will go ahead and do this now.
When Matt
And
has
it'll be
suspended
just-
Apocalypse with his 10th Doctor commander deck. Or not Apocalypse, Obliterate, sorry.
Yeah.
We need to specifically destroy.
Yeah, and I'm looking through a lot of the humans at the moment. Werewolves do give this a very interesting gameplay element. Humans in mono green are not terrible,
They're
but
actually
they are not great.
unfortunately, the human killers are red, white, and blue, baby.
I mean, really, it's just playing a humans deck without white feels like such a handicap.
Yeah.
Like, you can play humans in, like, if you told me you were playing red-green humans, I would tell you, okay, that's, like, doable, but you're
also,
losing
have you
so much of
considered
the stuff out of white.
have you considered how much you lose from white?
So, yeah, I'm looking at some of these decks. Like, granted, there's only 7 decks here currently, but I'm seeing like Azusa Lost but Seeking in this deck, and I'm like, that is not a card I want anywhere near this deck.
Yeah, but we have to play our humans somehow. I love the Aravarok Caretaker. I think this card is
Yeah.
just genuinely good.
Yeah, Averbrook Caretaker is a card that I think is pretty potent in this deck. That said, I also don't think Averbrook Caretaker is that good. And the lack of Tovolar's Huntmaster is a little surprising to me. At least it's not mono-red humans like that commander in LOTR. See, I was thinking the exact same thing when I first looked at that, and then I looked at it more, and I was like, actually, mono-red humans is way better than I gave it credit for. And this is better than I thought it was, but it's still bad.
It's still a 3.
Yeah, yeah, this commander is probably a 3. Viewing it as kind of like a diet 1/1 counters deck where you're just like hamstringing yourself is probably the most accurate way to view this. That said, like the mana values of this deck are going to be really weird. Like, you're going to have no 1-drops in your deck. There are going to be so few 1-drop humans that you're going to want to play because you don't get any mana dorks. At least, not that are human.
Oh my god, we don't.
Yeah, you just don't have 1-drops. You're really trying to play like the 2 and 3-drop ramp creatures to kind of overwhelm your opponent that way. And because the curve is so awkward, you're kind of hoping to just go over top of them. And while I don't think Carvanista is bad here, it is worth noting that we have an alien dog soldier who is not a human.
Yep.
So threes it is.
Threes it is. He used turn 1 for weenies.
Turn 1 for nothing. The sport's better than I thought, though.
Yep.
Not that much. Really not flexible.
It just doesn't do enough.
Yeah, nowhere near enough. Also, comment sorcery lol.
Now, if we were instant speed, that actually would be...
Oh, that'd be sick.
That would be sick.
A commander that we get to sit there and play reactive with and go like, okay, I'm going to be able to protect my board from the one board wipe, and then I get to follow it up with a finisher that really applies pressure. So if somebody does go for the board wipe, you get to put them in this hard squeeze of, if you go for the board wipe, you wipe out my opponent's things and I get to attack them, but you don't get rid of my board, so you need the second board wipe. Love that. That would be really cool. In a mono green deck, you probably need it. Okay.
Jason, you could never guess what episode of Doctor Who this one is from.
Damn, never could guess at all. Even though I'm pretty sure that is one of the 2 Doctor Who episodes I have seen. Didn't recognize her. Legitimately, I have seen exactly 2. And they were this episode and then the one with the Beast.
Yeah.
Those are the only 2 episodes of Doctor Who I've seen. So, Sally Sparrow here. Interesting that detective is now a creature type, I just realized. 2 a blue and a white for a legendary creature human detective. You may cast creature spells as though they had flash. And whenever one or more other creatures you control leave the battlefield, investigate. This ability triggers only once each turn. This is good.
This is good. Like, yeah. This is good.
Honestly, like, at least Harada win. Fair.
Soon, hopefully, please.
That is a very fair point. Okay, so Sally Sparrow, again, looking at what we have on EDH Rec, we don't have a lot to work with.
We just get to play generically good Azorius cards.
Yeah, we just get to play generic Flicker stuff, but also, like, we get to play Flicker and Flash.
Yep.
But, I mean, just, that's pretty good.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, like, solid deck, no notes.
No notes, give it a 6. Slap a 6 on it, call it good.
Honestly, maybe a 7, but I'm cool with a 6 for now. I think she does have some restrictions on her because of the leaving the battlefield thing as opposed to an enter the battlefield thing. The really needing to put yourself into Flicker to make things happen, and your reward there is drawing a card, and she's a sorcery speed investment to get instant speed out of your creatures. That said, instant speed Lauren, pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Instant speed Charming Prince, real good.
Really good.
Instant
speed Flicker Wisp. Very
really
good.
For those of you unaware, Flicker Wisp lets you do some really dumb things if you do stuff in the instep with it.
Oh, Jason. How could we forget about instant speed Sky Noodle?
The Sky Noodle? Oh my goodness, who would have ever foreseen this coming? Clearly nobody. Then this is actually just like a solid deck overall.
Yeah.
Would you say this is better than Afara or on par with Afara?
I think just Afara's sheer amount of cards that she actually draws.
Puts her over the edge?
Yeah.
I think it's comparable. We have Afara at a 7, which is why I ask.
Yeah, I think it's a 6.
Okay.
Slap 6, call it good.
I'll slap a 6, call it good. Give it a 10 on the support. I'll give it a decent flexibility as well. How high is the flexibility here? It's good, but it's still creature based, which is lower than some of the other builds.
Well, it should be the exact same as Afara, right?
Well, I need to drop with Afara's a little bit. I put that 7 in flexibility, which is a little too high. I think a 6 on her flexibility. And I think this deck's actually more flexible than Afara is.
No, Diego, you don't understand. This would be insane if you didn't have the limitations. Like,
trying to build the 8th Doctor at the moment. I don't know which one that is. So, give me a second. Let me take a look and see which one the 8th Doctor is and see if I have any immediate insights, but I will say I have not tried to build the 8th Doctor currently. So this is this is the 6-mana one, ETB's Mills 3. Okay, you may play a historic land or cast a historic spell from your graveyard. If you do, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. This one's a little bit hard for really evaluating it. One of the nice things about this is you want to look at flicker effects to try to get around this downside. It still forces you to pay the mana, so this is a commander that really wants you to ramp hard and rely on utilizing your graveyard as a secondary resource. How you achieve that, I'm not sure. But that is the thing. That's my immediate advice, is put more ramp in here than you would expect you would need. Like, this is a deck that is a big fan of playing cards like Worn Power Stone. Not only to get it to casting the 8th Doctor, but also as something that you can rebuy from your graveyard, or something that you can use for... it just helps you pay for a lot of those costs as well, because you still need to cast those spells. But otherwise, yeah, just try to find some ways to flicker a couple things because once it goes into exile, it'll come back anywhere, and that satisfies the clause of it leaving the battlefield, and it would get exiled normally. Well, it did go to exile, so it's fine. All right, back on the train.
War president.
Oh yeah, we have very many Dimir commanders. How many Dimir commanders is it again? 4 or 5?
I've got 5.
Excellent. All right, I think this is the worst of them so far, of all the ones that I did see. But let me double check to remind myself of exactly what this thing does. All right, 5 mana for a legendary Time Lord Noble, not a doctor. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 2 life and exile the top card of your library. As long as that card remains exiled, or you may play that card as long as it remains exiled. Each non-creature spell you cast from exile has Conspire, which is cool.
Conspire is neat.
So... See, I'm sitting here thinking, like, you all know how, like, Phyrexian Arena as a card has gotten a lot worse.
This is Phyrexian Arena.
Yeah, this is Phyrexian Arena that lets you conspire the non-creature spells that you get out of this. Which means you want to be doing token production, which means you want cards like Talrand, and you want Sedgemoor Witch.
Trekkie Tribble said a very, very sound thing in the chat. This feels like a fun kitchen table / budget commander.
Yes.
But nothing beyond that.
Yeah, I think a good comparison here is, and I will absolutely crush some dreams at the moment talking about it, Witch King, or Lord of the Nazgul, more specifically. This gives me some Lord of the Nazgul vibes on what you're trying to do with the deck. And in the end, it's not that good. It's kind of, oops. This is at least giving you card advantage, whereas Lord of the Nazgul is just giving you bodies, but bodies can actually end games eventually.
Eventually trademark.
Eventually trademark, yes. I'm trying to think if there's any good ways of... Because, like, blue is not the best color for casting things from exile.
No, and neither is black. So
black gets it occasionally, but not well is the issue. All right, let's take a look here and see how well are we actually able to cast things from exile with this commander.
The only good ways are to steal opponents' cards. You know what?
Stealing opponents' cards, not bad. Cascade with TARDIS here, reasonable actually.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, see, Sedgemoor Witch is here, and of the 9 decks we get to look at, a lot of these commanders are going to get so overlooked, and that's a little unfortunate. We're conspiring to make tokens. Yeah, I guess that works too. Gale's Redirection. Thief of Sanity.
Yo, Heralds of Zinch.
Yes, suspend cards are cast from exile. Foretell cards also cast from exile. The problem is we have no way of accelerating our suspend cards here. Like, we're just relying on the old methods of trying to make our suspend cards go faster, which is rough, to put it lightly.
Pretty rough. As somebody who's had a Jorah of the Get-To deck built for a long time, it's pretty rough.
Yeah, and I'm looking here, for example, like, Mind Stab is in one of these decks. Only one person has gone down the route of suspend, and I'm looking at the costs on these suspend effects. Like, Mind Stab, you need 4 turns to get to, and while that's pretty good to make one player discard 3 cards, if you can conspire it, which means you have to have 2 black creatures in play to also do that. Which, getting the instant sorceries, not thinking about it, like, you can play Talrand, you can play Dika, you can play Lord of the Nazgul in this deck. All different ways of getting you those tokens. I guess because of Lord of the Nazgul, that does help a little bit with making sure you get black creatures, but it does seem like you're going to get blue creatures more easily from your token production. There is Sedgemoor Witch, though, as well. Somebody wants to capture Jingzhou people. I mean,
you know what?
Reasonable.
I respect that.
Yeah, honestly, and maybe the way to really be looking at this and like going hard on it is how hard can we Mind's Desire people? How hard can we conspire with Mind's Desire?
It's kind of hot. It's kind of hot, Jason.
Yeah. Thralls and Zombies. Yeah, well, you can make Thralls and Zombies, right? But they aren't getting you that cross synergy between casting instants and sorceries to make the zombies that then give you more instants and sorceries, so that you have that synergy. You have to play kind of independent cards to get there, which always is a little bit rough. This deck, feels kind of like a 3 to me. Like, it feels very hard to set this up.
It's too hard to set up. I think cool budget commander.
I kind of want to give it a benefit of the doubt for Mind's Desire Storming. But
maybe in the optimized, but like...
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Benefit of the doubt optimized for.
I'm not getting it anywhere close to a 4.
Still thinks it's a 3 for the time being?
Yeah, I think it's a 3.
That's fine then.
It's just not good enough, man.
Yeah, it's really rough to get there.
Just way too slow.
It's got some fine support. It really is the commander that's the problem as well. Like, yeah, there's... The casting from exile stuff's a little bit weak, but the commander just is not offering enough. And it is not flexible. Like at all.
Alright, Cyber Controller time.
Oh yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, so one of the sad things about a lot of the commanders that are printed nowadays, some commanders are printed for power, whereas other ones are printed to just do interesting things. And not every, it's different things for different people. Since this is, Nimrus has results in CDH. I do acknowledge that Nimrus has results in CDH, Diego. However, CDH is, for the most part, excluded from here unless the commander is almost exclusively played in CDH. And in the case of Nimrus, Nimrus is having results in CDH. It is also a deck that is coming and going currently, so we're not sure that it actually has big sticking power. But it has put up some results. But either way, that is not reflective of the majority of EDH players and how they're viewing the deck, because the Zur Scale is designed with casual in mind. Oh, you're responding to tracking. My bad on that. Blue-black commander, why would you peg as top pile? The top blue-black commander currently, I think, is Toxrill for casual, right? Oh no, it's Yuriko. Yuriko's the highest rated casual commander.
It's ninjas. It's always ninjas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Yuriko just has a lot of different builds on how you can make that deck just sing. Scarab God is good. It's persistent, but it is also very mana intensive. Toxtrol, which while mana intensive, just takes over the game when it does come down versus the Scarab God.
Wins the game after one rotation. So
yeah. Also, I say this as a long-time Scarab God player. Scarab God's great, but okay. So, my apologies. Just wanted to make sure that that's understood at least. So, our good friend the Cyber Controller. X2 blue and a black for a legendary artifact creature Cyberman. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent mills X and put all creature cards milled this way onto the battlefield face down under your control. They are 2/2 Cyberman artifact creatures. Other artifact creatures you control get +1/+1. Big mana, kill your opponent.
I like
So, immediately I'm going to say that there's probably going to have to be a divide in this commander between who is and who is not trying to do Dramatic Scepter. So, if they're big... You played against Scarab God and... Oh, Scarab God and Commander was disgusting. Or, in Standard, that card was absolutely disgusting. That was...
Yeah, that thing was unbeatable in Standard.
Yeah, that thing... Like, the blue-black... The blue-black mid-range deck from that time was really annoying to deal with, and even the 4-color energy decks that just splashed Scarab God were stupid.
Also, wasn't that, like, mono-red Chain Whirler was a thing? God, that Standard environment was just horrid.
I can't remember if Chain Whirler was in at that time, or if things had rotated out by then, but yeah. Yeah, that Standard was awkward as hell, man. Ixalan was a weird Standard. Or Ixalan and Amonkhet were weird together. Alright, so we have generic artifact deck. We have mill deck with artifact deck, which is neat. Show me Dramatic Scepter.
So Dramatic Reversal is only in 19% of the 54 decks.
Okay, so we definitely need to do a split then. Another big question on those people who are playing Dramatic Reversal, how much of this is CDH specifically? I'm going to go ahead and filter that, because we only have 54 decks, so we are pretty low on our options. So of the 10 decks that are playing Dramatic Reversal, it leans a little into CEDH. Honestly...
That's just Dimir in general, though.
Well, I mean, half of these decks are playing things like Scorepack Lord, so that's just a generic artifact Lord. That's not a CEDH card. You definitely would not put that in the CEDH deck. I don't think you would play Karn Karn Legacy Reforged in that deck either.
Nope.
So, CEDH is not a large enough influence for us to worry about it affecting our rating here.
All right. So, here's my honest opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It, is about a 5 on the base.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden you put a Dramatic Reversal and an Isochron Scepter in. And it jumps up to a 7 because you now have a way of killing your opponents.
I would say I kind of agree with you. It's close to a 5. I actually think it's a 6. I think instead of it being a 5-7 split, I think it's a 6-8 split.
Okay, I mean I'm a little harsh on cards, so as we've established from all of these streams.
I think the two big reasons why I'm willing to give this an above average deck, and not a hugely above average deck, because it is kind of generic. It's not that powerful, right? And it is very mana intensive. Yes, Isorev is raising the rating of this commander for the optimized build. It's not in a significant percentage. It's only in about 20% of these decks. If it was a higher percentage, I would be saying... Can we see the scale briefly? Yes.
I am currently showing it. Do not worry.
Yeah. 0 is actively hurting you. 1 requires a lot of effort for doing something minimal. It's just not good, really. 2, very specific conditions. 3 requires some setup to be good. Specifically, what I'm saying, 6, it easily impacts the board, but requires support to take control of the game. Is strong and easily supported by its colors. Obviously, blue is the best color for artifacts, and black has gotten significantly better, especially with the number of precons that have just been dumped into black artifact support recently. We have a lot of good options for actually just beating face and being pretty good at it. And then on top of that, this is a commander where the more times you kill it, the longer the game goes, the stronger it gets. And blue-black loves a late game. Loves pushing games to late game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's enough going on here that I think it deserves a baseline 6. And then Dramatic Scepter, once you start throwing in all of those tutors to start finding Dramatic Scepter, I mean, this literally just wins the game on the spot.
Yeah, this...
And it can just play a control game and not even... You could choose to avoid playing artifact synergies in the deck entirely and just go the Dramatic Scepter line and have a really good deck. Is that a fair assessment or not?
There's always the off chance that you just... Yes, ISO-Rev outlets do kind of just get an 8 optimized.
Yeah. It is worth noting that with Rona and with Vohar in particular, Vohar, if you look at the commentary on it, it's all about talking about how it does things with CDH. That is with CEDH considered. And, like, I think Cyberman actually could just be a CEDH deck, not on par with Vohar, but in a very similar vein, because we are looking at it from a casual perspective. Yeah. Osgood also wins with Cybers, with Scepter combo. True, that's maybe a reason to go back and give an extra point to Osgood. It is much harder to set up the Scepter combo in mono blue than it is in blue black. Mm-hmm. But I could give you that Scepter gives it a 1 point boost pretty easily. And I will not complain about this bumping it up to a 3. However, I will also say that we do not have much data on Osgood, because I think there were only 3 decks on EDH Rec to back up that support. So it's only based on what we can determine right now. And
also mono blue versus Dimir. It's just way, way harder to find your Ice-Ground Scepter.
Yeah.
Plus your Dramatic Reversal.
Yeah, and I'm glad I don't have to... I will mention it, but, like, we're not considering Thassa's Oracle Demonic Consultation for this commander, because nobody's doing that, aside from the CDH builds. But this is another commander that has another 2-card combo using 2 mana value spells, so you can go and find them off of that Transmute spell that I'm blanking on the name of at the moment. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Muddle a Mixture?
Yeah, you can muddle a mixture to go find these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this commander's got a lot of support, and it's really not hard to make this work. It's got a few builds that it can work with, and how deep you want to go down the artifact synergies. Give it a 5 there.
I just like that, unlike most mill decks, this actively hurts your opponents that are playing graveyard strategies and not helps them out.
Yeah, not as much, because it does take all the creatures. Yeah, that's true. And most decks in Commander are creature or permanent based, as opposed to instant and sorcery based.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go on to the Master Formed Anew. Okay.
All right.
Someone convinced me this isn't a 1. I have such a huge issue with the Master Formed Anew. You want to be getting impactful enter the battlefield triggers, getting that creature into play, exiling it to the Master Formed Anew, which you have to cast the Master to do that, And then you want to flicker the master to have it alternate between like a toolbox of ETB triggers that you need it to work with. So you have to invest a bunch of mana into the cards that you want to put into play, or steal them from your opponents and exile them that way. You have to keep recasting your commander in your deck that wants to be flickering it. We're only in blue-black, which is not the worst for this, but it's not great for this. And I mean, it's just so mana intensive for an effect where, like, if I want to be flickering my command or flickering my cards anyway, why would I not just have my Solemn Simulacrum sit in play and keep flickering it as opposed to casting to get the...
Yes, this card reads at first glance, Trekkie, that this should absolutely have spice. No, it's just bad. It's bad. Once you think about it for 2 seconds, it's bad.
Right. You have to... This is the thing that keeps getting me, is the needing to cast the master to get its ability to exile something.
Sammy.
Like if I could just flicker it...
You could just make it an Orcish Bowmasters in the command zone permanently.
Will not deny, that is actually one of the big selling points for me on this commander, is you can have an Orcish Bowmaster sitting in your command zone. The problem is you have to find your Orcish Bowmasters first and then willingly exile it.
Willingly get rid of it and hope that somebody doesn't get rid of it for you in response.
Right, and so it's like, well, I can just always pay a commander tax and have my Orcish Bowmasters back, and it's like, that's great and all, but what do you do if you don't have Orcish Bowmasters now? Right, it's so hard to make the master work. To like to run secret commanders, this guy slaps? Kind of, right? Right, Sammy, you have to tutor for it, but not every commander deck wants to play tutors. In fact, like our group, for example, we actively cut tutors from our decks to reduce the probability of having those things. But for a commander like this, you would have to have them in your deck for it to even function. Which just tells me, deck kind of bad.
Deck real bad if we need tutors to function.
Mm-hmm. I almost want to say that this deck... Playing this as your commander, you are actively hamstringing yourself on your strategy.
100%.
Which would be the definition of a 0, then. But is this bad enough that we think it's actually a 0?
No.
It does something competitive enough that I'm like...
Give it a 1. We're going to give it a 1.
Yeah, oh my god.
We're giving it a 1, Jason.
We're done. We're not talking about the master.
we are done talking about the master. Diego agrees. Give it a 1. Slap it on there. Call it good.
You got a lot of flexibility, and the card is a 0. The rest of the deck is what carries this deck, not the commander.
Yep.
Card's so bad. It makes me so sad, too. Alright. The Master, Mesmerist. So, 4 mana Time Rogue Lord that taps to... Sorry, target creature and opponent controls a power less than or equal to the Master's power gains Skulk until end of turn. Goad it. Whenever a creature with Skulk deals combat damage to one of your opponents, put a 1/1 counter on the Master and draw a card.
Alright. So... Do you want my actual opinion on this? Or...
Yeah, go for it.
All right. This is awful. And the reason why this is awful is actually the psychology of commander players.
True.
It has this nice text that says, goad a creature. And you might think, oh, that's super good. But this is why goad is bad. And I've learned this from watching a lot of content and also talking to a lot of people out in shops. Goading is probably the worst thing you can do in Commander because it just points the entire table against you.
Right. They now sit there and go, well, I didn't have to attack you, but now you're going to sit there and make me attack other people, which makes things awkward. So now I have to attack you during the opportunities that I can attack you, which is difficult. I will say, though, so we're on an activated abilities commander again.
Yep.
More specifically, a tap ability. So we get all the tap and untap synergies to make the master do some pretty cool stuff here. I don't actually think this card is bad, but I do agree that the goading is weirdly bad, but not that bad, because skulking... People are often, when they play against goad decks, they're like, hey, I have to attack somebody. I apologize, can I hit you with this 2/2 and you take the 2 damage? And then when I get back to my turn, I will try to swing back at the person who forced me to attack. Well, if you do that, you just made the master stronger and drew them a card.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. This also is dependent on your opponents having creatures to attack with, which, not a great argument, honestly, because more times than not, people are going to have just random creatures sitting around that you can attack, or that you can take advantage of.
Always go with the fish stick.
Mm-hmm. Kind of a big hoop that needs to go to have lower power and be evasive, yeah. Well, Skulk gives the evasion. Which is the really nice thing. Like, if your opponent's sitting there with a 2/2 creature, you gave it the evasion to not be blocked by creatures that are smaller than it. And the good news is, one of the other things about Goad is, with that agreement that happens between players, the agreement becomes, you get to keep your creature. I'm not going to block your creature. We're going to utilize both of our creatures now to attack the person who's goading. But now it's a matter of, well, I want to block your creature, which means I'm probably going to trade something here. You actually are probably killing something or drawing a card every time you tap the master. That's pretty meaningful. Honestly, this is a very interesting design card. I think it's just
too weak to get somewhere.
See, I may have controversial opinion to you. I think this is 3 or 4.
No, I can give it a 3. I'm not giving it a 4, but I can give it a 3. I don't think it does enough to quite be a 4. Plus, you have the psychology aspect, and it's just a lot of stuff tends to go wrong whenever something goads something.
As Strikey put, in their playgroup, Goad is often used as soft removal for commanders or creatures that like to sit back and generate value. And that's very true. And this is a good commander for, if somebody's just sitting back with their Thrasios trying to take advantage of things, you go to that Thrasios and say, okay, we're not going to have this happen. You can actually cooperatively work with players to make this... This feels like a commander that uses Goad much better than most Goad commanders I've seen. Because most Goad commanders just sit there and go, haha, chaos, let's go. Whereas this one is actually trying to create these good situations for benefits. It's on player skill at that point and politicking, but just play propaganda.
Just play propaganda. Well, yeah, that totally works.
Yeah. So I actually think the master is better than all of the other commanders we've given 3s, enough that I'd be willing to give it the 4. But I also think that I could be wrong here. That the downside of goading is just that extreme. This is one I would actually want to test and play on the channel potentially to try to get a little more information out of it.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I just know that you shoot yourself in the foot, just from past experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I could be completely wrong, and it could be a 4, but
Oh, it's fine. I'll just have to put this on my list of things to build at some point. I like playing these types of decks anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so in the end, 3/3s. The support is kind of low still, just because we only have tappy untappy things and a little bit of extra goading here and there. Power being a 3 because it is a 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not too terribly... It's actually decently flexible. You could just play a control game and not even worry about building around the commander, but you have good options for it. Give it the 4. Optimize, just add. It's a nice add to Anawan. Potentially.
Yeah, I could see it being a nice add to
It's
Anawan.
a rogue. It is a rogue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. All right. Now onto the really fun commanders.
Mm-hmm.
The Rakdos ones. Let's talk about the Beast.
The Beast, baby. Let me actually get it pulled up.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot that they're all D.
Yeah,
Oh,
I know.
yeah.
I was just like, the sheer number of commanders added in this set that just have "the" in the name is insane. Okay, the Beast.
The Beast. Hey,
4 mana.
this is Satan from the Bible.
Correct. Satan, canonic and magic in universes outside, in universes beyond. So the Beast, Deathless Prince, 2 mana, black, red, legendary creature, demon. When you cast a spell, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it, gains menace and haste until end of turn. The Beast enters the battlefield with 6 stun counters on it. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to its owner, untap the Beast and draw a card. Obviously, the stun side of this is not great, and the threaten is just kind of like fine. This is still probably the best threatened commander we've ever gotten. Maybe.
Yeah.
Like, we're in red black, so we actually get to utilize sack outlets in a meaningful degree. The card advantage is nice here.
I'm upset, Jason. This isn't a 6 mana commander, because then we could have memed super hard.
True.
Would have been a 6 mana 6/6. Come on.
That would have been hilarious.
Oh.
Oh, we actually have 53 decks, so we actually have a reasonable number of decks to work with. We're trying to make some determinations on what this thing does.
People are trying to play the literal devil from the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah, insurrection.deck here.
Yeah.
Unsurprising. Yeah, never expect your creatures to stick around. It's just a bunch of sack outlets. It's a bunch of stealing things. The important thing is that the master we'll get to you in a minute. The Beast doing the card advantage thing, which also untaps the Beast for it to be able to block and utilize that big 6/6 body. Also with, 4 mana 6/6s, obviously things die very easily in Commander, but if Toxic Deluge, Meat Hook Massacre, if those are going to be the removal spells that a lot of people are using, being a 6/6 matters a lot. So I do genuinely appreciate the body here. But beyond that, yeah, this is just kind of a generic sack deck beyond the threatened effects that you now get to play. And you probably want to be pretty high on the number of threatened effects. You also get a decent amount of stealing your opponent's stuff. Like Ragavan stealing a creature, it's owned by that player still, so it encourages you to play good cards.
Yep.
What more do we really have to say on this?
It's good.
It's good. It feels like an average deck still, or maybe even slightly above average.
I think it's a 6. It's optimized as a 6. And its support is a 6.
So with real numbers,
I think it's for sure a normal and optimized 6.
Really think so?
Yeah.
It's like we have the Balrog Durin's Bane as a 5/7 split, right?
Mm-hmm.
You think at baseline as a sack deck by comparison to the Balrog, the Beast is a better deck.
I mean,
This could be that we need to reevaluate Balrog, which
Insurrectioning is just... It's so easy. It's so free. It might be slightly better. Might be about the same. It might be that Balrog needs to go up to a 6. That might actually be the solution.
I wouldn't be against putting the Balrog up to a 6. I think Balrog's Durin's Bane is a pretty reasonable card overall. The downside of it, functionally not doing anything as it sits in play, but being a way of destroying artifacts and creatures and doing these big loops with it is really good. That's why I think if you're not doing the big really abusing the loops and trying to go infinite, it's a 5. But if you are trying to abuse it and go for the infinite loops, it goes into being a 7.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Beast doesn't really give you, that power of what the Balrog's doing. But its baseline, yeah, maybe it just is a little bit better.
I think it's... I legitimately think that it's a 6/6. Because it's worse than the Balrog at its best.
I think that's a fair assessment then. Okay. Chat, if you have opinions on any ratings whenever we get to this point, absolutely just start slamming them out our way. So we will listen to you and try to see where you're sitting. Also, I will give its power a 6 because it is a 6. And there you go. Here's your 666. As for its flexibility, it's... I guess it's slightly more flexible for what Zach's deck do, but...
No, it should have been a 6-mana commander.
I mean... There we go.
Else. Beautiful.
Here, let me not get us immediately canceled. There you
go. Yeah. Don't forget your /s. Very important.
Don't forget your /s.
All right. Bad commanders.
Affinity for Daleks is kind of rough.
Yeah. You don't even know the half of it, Jason.
I imagine this was a pretty rough commander to try to set up.
This, even with changelings, was nearly impossible to put a deck together for.
Yeah, I mean, I am just sitting here thinking, like, ignoring all of the affinity for Daleks and other Daleks you control having haste, right? Or, well, I guess I can't ignore that part, but at the beginning of combat on your turn, each opponent faces a villainous choice. They either sacrifice a creature they control or they give you a 3/3 with menace, which would immediately have haste. Where would I put a 7-mana commander that has that effect? Ignoring the cost reduction.
I'd give it a 3 or a 4.
Maybe, I mean, that depends on who you ask about Hail with Satan, my friend. If you ask Dante, Satan's frozen.
Mm-hmm.
Giving this a 4? That's that's about where I was thinking it'd go.
Yeah. A 3 or a 4, one of the two.
This is one of those commanders that will definitely get better with more changelings getting printed, because God knows we're not getting more Daleks anytime soon.
Nope.
I think 4s are fine here. I think that is a meaningfully powerful commander with what it's doing. It's just the support real rough.
Like I said, this was hard to actually build this deck. So, even with all the changelings.
Yeah, that's very reasonable.
So.
Don't do that. Nope. More dogs, yeah. Alright, so not the Cool Master. We're on to the Master at Gallifrey's Inn, the 4-mana Rakdos Master, not the cool 6-mana one. So make them pay whenever a non-token artifact creature you control dies. You may exile it. If you do, choose an opponent with the most life among your opponents. They face a villainous choice of either losing 4 life, or you get to create a token that's a copy of that creature.
All right. So they're always paying 4 life, considering you have to target the one with the most life.
Oh, I just realized that Scryfall has a misprint here. The card is a 4/3, but the text here says it's a 4/2.
Yeah, it is. Neat.
Yeah. Anyway.
Right. Yeah, your opponent's always choosing to lose 4.
Mm-hmm. And also, we have to play artifact creatures now, which I don't think artifact creatures are terrible, but Rakdos artifact creatures are not the strongest.
To be fair, 4 isn't life is nothing. You want to make EDH players actually feel it, make them lose like 6 or 7 life, then they actually will feel it.
I mean, 4 is going to hurt over time, right? And it's just like, let's say you built up a board with a whole bunch of... The thing is, non-token is really, really annoying here. To be fair, you could just set up really annoying loops if you didn't, but whatever.
You can't set up loops, Jason.
No, if it was the other way around, you could.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was saying. If you could do the token ones because this makes token copies. It would probably just have been better for it to return the artifact to your hand, as opposed to making the token copy right away. But like if you just get a decently wide board, let's say with 4 artifact creatures and someone board wipes you, the choosing is on resolution, so it will change depending on that as well. Man, that's rough as well. I am... At least we get our sacrifice synergies. Red-black sacrifice, and with artifact stuff is not that bad. But yeah, I'm in a yike for me, dog. I'm in the 3 camp.
I'm in the 3 camp.
This way, Mike can see. I mean, you can Mike can see people. That's not terrible.
It's not awful.
The only downside is it just means that all of your creatures, so...
But yeah.
It's still not like artifacts in general. It's not like you can take your lands and do this and it works out, which is unfortunate, but... C'est la vie. Ah, boy.
3.
It do be feeling like a 3 to me. Like, we have to try real hard to make this do what we want it to do. We have decent support, low flexibility, and not a lot else going for us. I'm really trying to think if there's, like, a good amount. Because 4 does hurt, because you are going to be punching them with this deck. You're an artifact creature deck. Where's the Pogmaster? In one moment.
Right here.
If anybody has any final...
Right here is the Pogmaster. Okay, now we have to go back to the other one.
Yes. I have no other words for the Master, Gallifrey's End. If anybody else in chat has something they'd like to say on it, but 3 feeling about right, then... Yeah, I feel like a 3 is probably the spot for this. I could maybe say, because 4 is such a substantial amount of life to lose, but... It's just... it's not enough in the early game is the problem. It's one of those situations where that ability doesn't come up until the late game. And at that point, you're just building your deck around what's in your deck as opposed to the commander.
And 95% of the time, the person with the highest life total is still sitting somewhere in the neighborhood of like 36 to 40 life.
Yeah, God forbid you play against any life gain opponent with all the food decks that have been around recently.
Yeah, man, it's just too rough.
All right. It's the star of the show, baby. It's the Master multiplied. I feel like this commander doesn't need an introduction, but we'll introduce it anyway. We're 6 mana for a legendary creature Time Lord Rogue with Myriad. The legend rule does not apply to creature tokens you control, and triggered abilities you control that cause you to sacrifice or exile creature tokens, or can't cause you to sacrifice or exile creature tokens you control.
God, it's so cool.
So the really important thing on this card is that how that works with Myriad. Because when you attack with this, you'll get, assuming you have 3 opponents, you will get 2 copies of the Master, assuming that they all survive. If you go to the next combat, you will get to do another. Like, each of those tokens are now going to trigger, so you'll have 9 Masters who are attacking. And if you go one more time after that, you have snowballed to victory. So if you can go 3 combats with the Master uninhibited, you are pretty much guaranteed to win the game.
And also, notably, it doesn't matter if the original one dies.
No, it really doesn't, because they all have this rules text.
Yep. Blood funnel, my beloved.
My beloved.
They're not wrong.
Yep. Now, this ability of the triggered abilities can't cause you to sacrifice or exile creature tokens you control can be a downside in some cases, but for the most part, we are just here to turbo out the Master and beat our opponents down.
I don't know. I like my Felden of the Third Path to no longer get rid of the artifact token copy.
That's true. But yeah, there's cool stuff you get to do with stuff like that. A lot of the stuff here is themed around, like, just Doctor Who themed stuff, which I understand, but at the same time, when we move away from that theming, we will get to something more powerful.
Oh yeah. We go to the EDH rec page, and it's all just Myriad tokens. Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
We're making as many token copies of things as we can, and we're just going batshit insane. Like,
oh man,
Locked came out with Endrixar this weekend. That's interesting. You play Karlach, you get extra combat steps. Like, so let's. I want to talk about this now in terms of the support that the Master has. The Master has a 9 or a 10 on support because red-black is the color combination that gets you the most fast mana. Like, you get all of your rituals, you get a lot of things that just generate mana on either ETBs or sacrificing, you just have ways of storing mana to get to the Master quickly. You get haste, so that you can immediately take advantage of the Master. Sometimes, even if you cast the Master on, let's say, turn 4, it just dies, and that's a problem. And now you gotta pay 8 mana, and it's gonna be really hard to get there again. Yeah.
Yep. Batshit insane.
Batshit insane. Sneak attack. Delina, yes. Sneak attack. Sneak attack does not work the way you want it to because this only helps you with the creature tokens, and the Master generally will not be in your hand to take advantage of this. But that said,
I mean, it kind of does though, because you sneak attack in a myriad creature, which then makes more myriad creatures.
Yeah, that's true. Fair enough. Yeah, I guess sneak attack is a card you would probably want in the deck then.
Yeah.
Boy.
God, this card's so good. I love the Master Multiplied. This is just such
the first thing
cool deck.
I'm gonna tell you this, people. Whenever I look at a commander deck in just any commander deck that's playing black, one of the things I'm immediately looking for to kind of get a feel for what the deck's builder is trying to do is whether or not Dark Ritual is in the deck. Dark Ritual is such an insanely powerful card. It is so good. And the fact that 50% of these decks are playing Dark Ritual is telling me what I want to know.
Yep.
We don't care. We are going fast and eating ass. That is what is happening here. So, and I think that is the way to build this deck as well. I do not think you want to try to play the slow mid-rangey build of the Master to try to, like, keep the Master and just keep multiplying and doing... No. I think you are just trying to shoot for those 3 combats, win the game. So I would be willing to immediately go ahead and say that there will be a split between the decks that are going slower versus the ones that are trying to go fast.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to be a huge split, no more than a 2-point difference, but
I think it's only a 1-point difference.
Probably. Because also the presence of things like Jeweled Lotus, Tutors, they'll help. But a lot of these decks are just playing the same cards anyway. So
6?
Mirror March, you say?
6?
Starting this out as a 6 and doing a 6-7 split?
Yeah.
I'd be willing to go 7-8.
7-8? I'm completely down.
I think if you are going fast, I think the Master actually will just take over games. Well, first time I saw this card, I was really low on it and did not understand what it was trying to do. Now I understand, and no, that is just so much better than what I thought it was. And I don't believe it's an overcompensation to say that it's a 7-8 split. Whoops.
Oh, no.
There we are. Have yourself a 9 on your support, buddy.
7-8 split. I like it.
I might just give it a 10, actually. Yeah, I think the support's good enough. Well, actually,
I think the
some of the
support's
cards you
only
play
a 9.
Yeah, some of the cards you have to play in the deck are a little awkward. But I do think the Master itself is very good, and you have some decent flexibility. Like, I don't think you have to go down the route of playing the myriad creatures, but a lot of people like to go down the route of the myriad creatures, which is very reasonable to do.
Okay, anything in Gruul? There is one thing in Gruul.
Oh, I think, like, it is worth saying that this is kind of like looking at the baseline of the commanders, because, like, any deck could be, like, you could take Urza, Lord High Artificer, a really, really powerful commander, and you could build that deck to be a 2. You do so by including 199 basic lands in the deck. Are you going to do that? No, but you can do it.
Or you build a theme deck that never gets to see the light of day, like I did.
Right. So it's the consideration for how to... Also, the Urza deck that I built that never got to see the light of day. Ooh, Throne of the God Pharaoh in this deck. That's a pretty cool one.
I like that. Neat. I like that.
All right. There's a singular Gruul commander that I don't understand.
I don't get it. I mean, I like that it tosses grenades.
I don't know. It's just a 5-mana 5/5 that you want to sacrifice an artifact. Target creature that player's. Here's the thing I really hate about this card, which I think a lot of people miss. That this boyo can make you fight your own creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And he just gets bigger. He takes his damage, and then he probably can't swing because you dealt damage to your own creature.
Yeah. I think you can shoot yourself in the foot so much that this is probably like a 1 or a 2.
It's probably a 2, because I do think like the baseline 5-mana 5/5 Vigilance Trample that can just kill some things your opponents control is actually not terrible. You build it as a treasure deck. It's acceptable.
Fight Club Tribal.
Yeah, it's just... There's better fight clubbing, though. Like, we can just play... what is her name? Nth?
Yeah.
And we only have Nth as a fucking 4, so... Yeah, 2s feel appropriate for Strax. Strax... It honestly, it's just, like... God, it's not terrible, though. This may be underrated, honestly. I hate to say it, but it may be underrated.
I don't know that it is, though, because it's just... It's so easy to shoot yourself in the foot and this to do absolutely nothing. And also keep in mind that, like, you have to do this fighting, like, after blocks are declared, but before damage.
If you want to get the extra damage on it. But you can also just play back and attack with your 5/5 and then wait and start doing fighting. Let people play out their creatures before you decide whether or not you're going to take the risk at fighting. Like there's nuanced ways to play this that gives you something to work with, but ouch, it's rough.
Owie.
It just feels so awkward.
It just feels bad. Like it feels bad.
Okay, I think there's 1 Selesnya commander. No, 2. Oh yeah, we get the bug lady to talk about in a minute.
We get the greatest pre-con finisher ever that we get to talk about. And then Sergeant John Benton. Okay. The Secret Rendezvous is a good card.
No, it's not.
However,
I hate having this fight with you, Richard.
However, it stapled on a creature is bad.
Oh, God. Trample Haste. You can cast it on turn 2 pretty reliably due to mana dorks.
It's bad. It's bad, Jason. Just say it's bad.
I feel like this has to just be terrible, right? Because we're in green-white. We don't take advantage of card advantage that well. Like, we just play more things. That's what we do.
Even if we buff up this guy, we're just drawing our opponent more cards. Which is infinitely worse than us getting more cards. You made Cyrus 10 times worse.
This is true. God, Flump is in this deck for... the number of people playing this is like group hug.
I hate it.
This is Elshorn doing it here.
This is so bad. This is so bad.
Why is there a Bishop Soldier in here? Just a 2-mana 2/2 lifelink. Is someone trying to play like Soldier Typal and they were just like, we're gonna go with the worst soldiers I can find?
No, they're not playing Carbon, so they're not actually playing Soldier Tribal. Let's be real here.
So, is this bad enough that it is actively hurting you? Or do we think we can take advantage of the card advantage offered here to it not be terrible? Because let's make the assumption that we are not relying on politics to make this card okay.
I think it's 1. I think drawing your opponent's card... This is why I think Arcane Denial is bad. Drawing your opponent's cards is infinitely worse than drawing yourself cards.
This card is awesome when your friend's building. True.
What did they say?
This card's great when your friends build it.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, I think it's a 1. I don't think it's a 0 though.
No, it's not a 0.
It avoids being a 0, but I think it's lacking the support that we would really want. And I have no idea how you actually make this good.
Yeah, bad. Anyways.
All right, let's talk about the cool card. Because I actually really like this commander.
This card is sweet.
Mm-hmm. All right. Vestrin Menoptera Leader. Man, it's an alien insect scout. I think that's about all we need to know.
True. Actually, it's extremely relevant because it's big. It makes a lot of little shitters.
Mm-hmm.
And then it puts 1/1 counters on every insect that attacks.
Yeah, so X green, white for a 0/0. She's got flying. Vestrin enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it. When she enters the battlefield, create X 1/1 green and white alien insect creature tokens with flying, and whenever you attack with 1 or more insects, put a 1/1 counter on each of them.
Curse is good.
Welcome to Doubling Seasons Commander.
Yeah.
Like, this is tokens and counters. This is like the ultimate fixation of it, and people are playing as bug type. Great.
I don't actually hate it though.
No, I mean, honestly, if you were going to make a deck that's insects, like, this is probably the best insects deck you could play. And but it's not the cards in the deck that are making the deck good. It is absolutely the commander making this deck good.
Yeah, the commander.
Like, we are all in on the commander being good.
Yep.
God, tribute to the World Tree with this.
Oh, call me Whispered Hopes.
So, like, oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, this is
Kami Whispered Hopes, you say. Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good, this deck.
Yeah, like, I mean, honestly, this is one of the nice things, like, this is like beat your face into your opponent green-white, right? You just play ramp, you don't have to worry about your card advantage. You just get to, Concorder Crossroads is good here. You just get to be big and dumb and do things. I think previously, like, I had Farmer Cotton up here, and I had Farmer Cotton as a 3. Because I was like, there is something here about the mix between a commander that makes basically double X of tokens, even though 1/2 of those is food tokens. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this still feels like well-deserving of at least a 3, maybe a 4.
Yeah.
Vestman to me is just like, I don't have to try, but if I optimize and I really build my deck well, I am hard hitting. Like, this feels like absolute minimum 5 for me, but I'm leaning more towards 6 or 7.
I'm leaning towards a 6-7 split.
6-7 split?
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable.
Because the very worst, this is
an insect deck that just goes wild.
Bingo. And also, it's like a 6/6 that also makes 6 little shitters.
Oh, hey, this is one of those. Okay, most of y'all in the chat probably have not heard my rant on this. I do not think Moonshaker Cavalry is actually. I really think people overestimate the value of white having access to that effect as opposed to green, where green can really use the ramp and abuse it. This is a great deck for abusing both of those cards, though.
Yeah.
Like, Moonshaker Cavalry and Craterhoof are both excellent cards in this deck, and it's like, this is the perfect deck for using those 2 cards. You want both of them here.
But The only reason why Moonshaker Cavalry is so expensive is because people went neuron activated.
And I mean, it will certainly win games, and you can put that just in a low power deck and it'll still do fine. But
That's why I said neuron activated, Jason.
yeah. But if you're like optimizing, Moonshaker Cavalry is going to come out of a lot of your white decks.
Yeah.
Because haste matters so much. Yeah, green white hardened scales. Like this deck has some decent flexibility. Like the flexibility actually is not bad here. I think it's actually hilarious that people are building this as insects because I genuinely think insects is the wrong build. Just ignore that line of text on like caring about other insect related stuff. Just you don't really need more insects. You just let Vestrin do everything. Reston.
I don't know. I think the insects that some people are choosing to play though are actually good insects though.
Oh sure, like playing Caustic Caterpillar, or you can also play. Or is Haywire Mite an insect or is it a mite? I cannot remember.
It is an insect.
Yeah, so you can do it like Haywire Mite, for example.
The Shell Crawler, Luminous Brood Moth.
Mm-hmm.
The Ant Queen is still good. It's still good because you're making a ton of mana.
Yeah, you're just making a ton of mana. Like you have a failsafe. This is a deck that probably doesn't have a lot of card advantage that it could play, but it also is not bad if you try to like jam Great Henge in this deck and do stuff with that. Very nice.
Very good.
Love the insect.
Love the insect.
Iridescent Horn Beetle also pretty sick here. So flexibility, I think I can actually just bump this up to a 5 on the flexibility. Like you just play ramp spells, you play card draw effects, you play some insects.
Mm-hmm.
You actually have decent options. It's 10 out of 10 on the support, even though you don't need to play insects to be good. I'm going to put that. Only comment that I need to make on that. So we are on 6-7 split.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay then. I'm thinking about whether or not the power level would be better, but I mean, she just carries the whole deck. Even though the support is there, she's really the one carrying it.
Till you start putting in token doublers and one counter doublers, and then it starts to shift to more of the deck carrying, but
yeah,
it's still just such an insane. Like I said, this legitimately, she's probably one of the best finishers that a precon's ever given us. So.
Yeah, she will end games very quickly and very easily. All right, moving on. There is nothing in Orzhov this go around. We do have Izzet. I think we have 2 or 3 Izzet commanders.
I don't want to talk about River Song.
I'll talk about River Song.
I don't want to talk about it. I
think
River Song is good. Okay. God, am I never drawing from the bottom of my deck?
Again, I do want to talk about Idris or talk about River Song because I disagree. I do not think she's very good. It's a fun conversation to be had. Okay. Idris, Soul of the TARDIS, 3 mana for a legendary creature. It's a 3/3 human incarnation, vanishing 3, imprint. So whenever she enters the battlefield, exile another target artifact you control until she leaves the battlefield, and she gains all activated and triggered abilities of the exiled card and gets +X/+X, where X is that card's mana value.
Just not good.
So the thing is, this is really just a way to use artifacts in a flicker deck. Like, that's honestly what we're working with.
Yeah, but we can already 95% of the time do that.
Yeah, so we have the issue. That's true. You can oftentimes just flicker your artifacts. The big issue I have with this commander is obviously the Vanishing 3 on it. This is a commander where I don't feel like you're really doing anything unless you have like a Thassa in play to flicker the commander. I'm going to go ahead and look at the EDH rec because this is one where I'm going to have to scratch my head a little bit on how good it actually is.
5 decks.
Yeah, 5 decks to work with. Thank you for all of your hard work to tell me what I'm doing.
And it's all precon cards.
Hold on. It has all the activated and triggered abilities of the exiled cards. Why is Cursed Mirror in so many of these decks then? it won't enter as a copy of something else. That's not a triggered ability. That's a static. But yeah, if you're looking at 60% of them playing Thassa Deep Dwelling, or 50% all 3 decks, 3 of our 5 decks playing Thassa, 2 of them playing Deadeye Navigator. We got some generic artifact synergy pieces going on here. I do like the interaction with Cyberdrive Awakener. That's actually kind of cool. Also gives, because of things like a 6 base, it makes your commander actually pretty large. Which I think that's probably an underappreciated component of this, is just how big the commander will get. So it'll be a little bit harder to remove or attack into. That said, like, yeah, all we're really doing is, I mean, so many of these decks are just like, yes, let me play all of these, these Doctor Who cards, and that's just like, well, those don't have any synergies, so hard to figure it out then. I
just don't think it's that good. I just think the payoff is just not good.
It's definitely not incredible. I think it is okay. It is, yes, it is very gimmicky.
Yep.
Gimmicky can be good. Gimmicky can also be bad.
Vanishing makes it feel awful. So
yes, vanishing is, you're putting a big risk on this commander, which is the annoying thing. Because I'm sitting here, like, the thing I want to be doing with this is slapping an Ichor Wellspring into play, and then flickering my commander every turn to exile, return the Ichor Wellspring. It gets the triggered abilities and drawing me 2 cards every turn, right? That's good. Like, that's legitimately good. And because this is an imprint ability, if you have things like Panharmonicon, you can take 2 other artifacts you control and get 2 things, and you can, like, there are ways to build this really powerful value engine going on here. Like, legitimately good stuff happening. It's just so gimmicky in how you're going to get there.
It just feels bad. Like, it feels bad to get there, because it's just an entire gimmick, right? So...
Yeah, also, only one of these decks doing things like playing Ichor Wellspring. Feels bad.
Feels real bad.
That's absolutely the route I would be going with this commander.
Okay. So, what are you feeling, Jason? I'm going to let you rate this one.
Genuinely, I think if you just play this as an artifact value deck, and you go and do your thing, I think you can make this a 4 pretty easily.
Okay.
Like, it's going to be able to compete. The vanishing is a major downside, but I don't think it's too hard to make this good. Question becomes, how many redundant flickering effects do we have to make this work well?
The answer is not enough.
I think we only have, 3 in these color combination?
And is it? Yeah, it's only 3.
Yeah, 2 or 3. And all of it is very mana intensive as well. But, I mean, ideally you're going to be finding your card advantage piece, putting that underneath it, and going ham that way. Yeah, so 4 may be too generous because of how bad the vanishing is. Or it's just, you just play enough flicker effects with enough card draw in your deck that you end up not caring about the vanishing at all.
I don't think you care about the vanishing. It just... I don't know. It's the fact that once you flicker it, you have to have another immediate value piece, or else it just does nothing, right?
Oh, no. You can just keep flickering her and exiling the same thing.
Oh my god. Wait, this doesn't work like normal. Okay, I thought it was just normal imprint. I didn't completely blanked on this other line of text.
Yeah, until she leaves the battlefield.
Because normal imprint does not return things.
Right. Normal imprint won't give you the thing back, and that's why I was like, putting the Ichor Wellspring under it and drawing 2 cards a turn. Now you see why I'm saying, like, you absolutely can do that. There's enough redundant pieces, that enough little eggs that we can play that makes Idris able to function. Like, you can play your Prophetic Prince and stuff like that, and still just be drawing a card every turn. So, It's just you have to find the right pieces and your opponent's not interact with it, and then like that sounds like some hoops to jump through, but we're doing something good, like actually good when we get there.
We're doing very good things once we get there. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I may be overvaluing it because I'm immediately thinking about Osgood and where we rated her, but I also think that this is a lot easier to get going than Osgood.
Mm-hmm.
Weirdly enough, because we just play Ghostly Flickers and similar cards. Voyager Staff, yeah, that's true. We are not a very flexible deck.
No.
And it may be that I need to... maybe this needs a split rating, actually. Because I'm thinking maybe this is actually a 3-5.
3-5.
Yeah. Displacer Kitten getting to do cool stuff here. That's true. You can absolutely Displacer Kitten combos, and you were convincing me more and more that this needs a split, and that the 5 decks we have to work with are not giving us enough information. Okay.
All right. I'm gonna off-rip River Song ratings. You ready for it?
Go for it.
2-9.
What if I told you you're almost correct? What if I told you 2-6?
No, I think it's a bit stronger than you're giving it credit for at the high-end tables.
I mean, I think it does some good damage at the high-end tables, but I still don't think it does enough. I don't want to throw on like stupid infuriate onto my commander to try to make it do more damage when my opponents go for a mass search or something. Actually, mass searches don't even work correctly. There's very little scrying and surveilling that goes on at high power, so it's really about searching the deck.
It's entirely about searching the deck, but like I said, there's just so much of it that like on a 3-mana commander, it actually does add up like very quickly. I'm a time stream navigator though, Jason. Come on.
Yeah. It's boy. Okay. Okay, let's actually break down what River Song is doing.
So it literally does nothing at low-end tables. We're going to both agree with that.
Yes. Yes, at low power tables, it does so little. Like, sure, you can catch your green opponents searching for mana over and over, and I think that's reasonable, right? Deck folds itself, you risk locking yourself out. Yeah, well, I don't really know about locking yourself out, but okay, so first thing, the drawing cards from the bottom of your deck thing, this is absolutely a gimmick. It offers no real value in a deck. Like, all it means is that you just have to put extra brain power into how you scry cards in your own deck, and in the end, it also requires you to make multiple game rule violations as you try to draw cards from your deck, because that's going to happen a lot.
Yep.
I must say, as former judge, God, I hate this line of text on this card. It's just such a headache to deal with. River Song Voltron. Sure, man. You do you, right? Being a 3-mana 2/2, like, all right. So punishing searching by making it so that the first search of a game that occurs, it takes 3 mana. People like searching. They're going to kill your commander because it's an annoying stacks piece. Sorry. Very rarely are they going to be forced to play into it. Additionally, there's only 4 or 5 cards in the entire game that force your opponent to search their deck.
Like I said, we're not caring about our opponents being forced to search. They're going to search.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I give the argument of, yes, we're going to see removal spells thrown at our commander, but also we're in the literal best color combination to deal with removal spells being thrown at our commander.
Yeah, one of the best ones, right? If we were like specifically blue-white, we'd be in the best spot we could be.
Yeah, because
we
got deflecting SWAT and we got a whole bunch of free counter spells. Wait,
So,
bring the
so
removal.
there's actually very few ways of forcing your opponents to scry, and there are no ways to force your opponents to surveil.
Yep.
For example, when you look at a card like Eager Construct that enters the battlefield at 2 mana, each player may scry one.
Mhm.
They're not forced to scry there. They can just say no.
And they're not going to.
Similarly, Mere Custodian, 3 mana, enters the battlefield under your control. You scry 2, and then each opponent may scry 1. It's a may for them. They don't have to.
And once again, they're not going to because it hurts them.
Yep, there's these 2 creatures that let your opponent search their deck. There's Noble Benefactor if it's put into a graveyard from play. Each player may search their library for a card and put it on top of their deck. And then there's Hired Giant, which lets people search for lands. But it is also, again, a may. So you have Cleansing Wildfire, which, again, it's a may. So that's not even that good, but it's the best of the may ones you could work with. And Geomancer's Gambit's a may. The only one that, I don't know, even From the Ashes is a may, but that one destroys all non-basics, and your opponents are just out of the game if they don't do it, so they're going to.
Yeah.
Like, all of these effects are may abilities. The only thing that's not a may is Field of Ruin, right? Yeah.
Field of Ruin is a force search.
I was wrong, actually. There is one way to force your opponents to search or scry.
Yeah.
And it's Field of Ruin. Like, you have no control over River Song's ability. So you're just kind of hoping your opponents play into it, which is so bad. So the only thing you can do is rely on your Time Stream Navigator, which is great. But it's just so bad. This card is so bad.
I don't know. I think you're underestimating the sheer greed of Commander player.
I won't deny that the early ones are pretty reasonable, but as you mentioned before, like 4 damage is not being that big of a deal, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, if you're just playing for the first part, though, the only way you're really taking advantage of that first part is with like the 2 cards that are really taking advantage of this first ability are Time Stream Navigator and Brainstorm. And sometimes you don't want to put your Brainstorm cards away for forever, so...
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, you can also put cards from your graveyard on the bottom of your deck with cards like Junk Controller. It's just that... It's so rare that you want to do that, though. And the cards you have to play, like 4 mana 0/6s, are so bad. So here's the thing, though, right? Trekkie, the important thing to understand, though, about Anticipate is, what if you don't want those cards?
Then you're forced to bottom something.
Yeah, you're forced to put those cards to the bottom, and now, instead of actually taking advantage of River Song's ability, it's a downside. That's why I was saying, like, scrying, for example, taking advantage of scrying, you're not really taking advantage of scrying. All you're doing is making it so that the bottom of your deck is now the top of your deck, and vice versa. All you've done is inverse the order of your deck, which does not actually affect a lot of those cards in a meaningful way. That's the thing that's, like, so annoying and hard to work with versus Commander. Like, when we put I'm actually the one who built the deck for what we played on our channel with it. Even though Seth was the one who piloted it, I was the one who built it. And going through and looking at, like, I played a whole bunch of the Future Sight cards to try to utilize that as well, but it's not better, because you can't clear the cards from the deck by just drawing a card now. So you don't get to go deeper. You have, once the Future Sight card is on the top of your deck, you have to choose whether or not you want that card now or never.
And then you have to cry because you have to draw from the bottom of your deck, which is actually just entirely a skill issue, but...
It is entirely a skill issue, and it sucks. I hate that ability so much. The Time Stream Navigator is really the only card that we're like, we are dead set on, we are benefiting because we are playing this deck.
Mm-hmm.
And you can make an argument for playing cards like Junk Troller and other ways of putting cards on the bottom of your deck as being a way of really benefiting from it. You know, the Grenzos cards, but, like, they're not that good. And we are in blue-red, but, like, you know, just because we can play LED breach lines does not mean that we are going to, and we should. So
don't tell that to the CEDH crowd, Jason.
yeah, I saw people like I think there was a River Song CEDH deck that actually top 4'd a tournament last week or something like that.
Won a tournament. It didn't just top 4.
Won.
It won.
Yeah, right. And that's in a format though where tutoring is everything. Even high power though, we don't tutor as much. We do tutor a lot, but we don't tutor as much as CEDH does. CEDH is every turn somebody's tutoring. So,
yeah, and I was kind of joking earlier about the 2-9. The 9 is definitely in CEDH. Oh yeah, this is a 9.
Right.
It's not even close.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I'm giving the power of this commander a 2. I'm going to say that now.
Oh, 100%.
And I'm also going to give it a really low support number. Like, I think the support is actually a 4 or a 5. Or 5 or 6. Probably 5.
I think you can optimize it as a 7.
That's the thing, right? Like, can we?
It's close enough that I think you can call it a 7.
I mean, the good news is we get Imperial Recruiter and our other one of tutor effect.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, we're just playing blue-red control with no concern for the commander.
With the skill issue element, so
with a skill issue built in. Like, what are we doing? Can I just make this a bad card and just call it a bad card as it is?
Yep.
I will give you maybe it's a 5, like it's a 2-5 split, and the answer is it is only getting better because your opponent's decks got better. Like, that is the only reason it is getting better.
No Golgari. Is there a Boros? There is a Boros. I
think there's a
forgot
single Boros commander.
Completely forgot there was a Boros card.
Yes. How many multicolor do we have to go? I think there was a single Golgari card, right? So
we've got 2 more 2 colors. I'm trying to go through them right now. Oh, there's a lot of Grixis cards.
Yes. There's like almost 10 3-color commanders to talk about. 1 in Jeskai, 1 in Bant. There's 5 in Grixis.
There's 2 in Jeskai.
Oh, there's 2 in Jeskai?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Face of Bow, right?
How could you forget about Face of Bow?
You're right. But yeah. I don't think there's a Mardu one, right? Yeah, there's no Mardu one.
There's a
Hero, maybe? Yeah, Me Immortal. Me the Immortal.
So I got 1, 2, 3, 4,
that weird name.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I got 12 more multicolor commanders.
Just 12 more? We can probably finish that out of the stream since we started early. You cool with that? Or you want to maybe do
I want to talk about David Tennant. I'm sorry.
You want to get to David Tennant at least?
I want to talk about David Tennant.
That is fine then. We can do David Tennant today at some point. Alright, so Jenny then? Or do we want to go straight to talking about some doctors?
I mean, it's Doctor Who. People want to know about the doctors.
Sure, we'll talk about a doctor then.
The doctor.
Well, when is the next stream? Unfortunately, that is a hard thing for us to say because, unfortunately, we have to operate very opportunistically. Good night, Diego. Not to go too much detail into it, but Matt has to travel a lot for work.
I am currently in probably the worst bit of traveling I've ever done for my job.
Yeah.
So,
how long were you away from home until this week?
I went a month straight in a hotel.
Yeah, a full month. In circumstances where you just couldn't stream.
Yeah.
I am able to stream a little bit more, but I also do things like editing that take a lot of time. Like, I need to be editing for the podcast that's coming out on Wednesday, but oh well, here I am.
And like the worst part is I don't have good internet when I'm out, so I can't even chime in. It's that bad.
Right. So it's very hard for us to say when it would be. Yeah, a long time. So unfortunately, we just kind of had to say we don't know. We're hopeful that by the time your Matt's next thing ends, but you're about to go out for another like 2 to 3 weeks, aren't you?
Probably like a week and a half.
Week and a half. So if we're lucky, it'd be in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe be able to stream something in the meantime, because I do need to get practicing with doing the streaming stuff. But all right, let's
David Tennant.
Let's get into the headache that is partners. All right, so 10th Doctor. 5 legendary creature, Time Lord Doctor. Alonzi, what is this? Whenever you attack, exile cards on the top of your library until you exile a card. Put 3 suspend counters on it. If it doesn't have suspend, it gains suspend. Worth noting, the lands stay exiled.
Yes.
And then you can timey-wimey for 7 mana. Time travel 3 times, activate only as a sorcery. For time traveling, you may add or remove a time counter from each permanent you control or that is suspended.
Alright, chat. Since you all have watched the video, I'm assuming, I did the dumb fucky wucky on the video, and I did not read the activate only as a sorcery. I was trying to Apocalypse at instant speed when Sam went to attack me. I'll just full own up to it.
Mistakes are made.
Mistakes were made.
And we also must consider... Alright, so talking about what this card can do. Apocalypse at instant speed aside, that is not what we actually get to do, but this is just card advantage whenever you attack.
Yeah.
We're in blue-red, so we get extra combat steps.
Yep.
The default partner for this is Rose Tyler, and that is probably the best one, but for the sake of what we have to talk about for how partners work, we have to look at them in isolation, and we can acknowledge in the notes about some of the good partner pairings with it that may push up the rating. But we need to look at this in isolation with consideration that we can add another color at any time if we would like. That's how we have to evaluate partners.
I actually like the teamer version of the deck.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Who's I must ask, who's the partner on that one?
Actually, the Mana Dork.
The Mana Dork one?
Mm-hmm.
That's reasonable. I mean, it is just a Mana Dork, so
yeah,
Mana Dorks are good.
Like the other green partners don't add enough to, but just getting the 10th Doctor out sooner is huge.
I'm sorry.
And getting to the 7 mana ability is huge.
Oh, right, serialized versions. I was like, why is there a $700 version of this card?
It's a serialized version of David Tennant. Do we need any more explanations, Jason?
No. That's understood now. Okay. So, attack, 3 time counters, plus a 7 mana way of removing the time counters. So, we can just get a bunch of mana, attack, and immediately cast that spell. If we are willing to invest 7 mana every turn towards doing that. May add or remove a counter. Okay, you can choose to not add a counter. That's very relevant.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of the things like the Apocalypse thing.
Yep.
I'm going to go on EDH reg, even though this is going to look kind of awkward because it's only looking at it as the solo commander. So the suspend cards and the cards that work well with suspend are more cute than good, but I do think that this commander is quite good.
I think he is very good.
Mm-hmm.
Just in general.
Yeah, the interaction with extra combat steps and taking extra turn effects and the mana cheating that you can do, getting, like, if you want a big dumb Ulamog in play, you can get a big dumb Ulamog in play. It's not too hard to set it up.
If you want to Eldrazi conscription people very easily, you can Eldrazi conscription people very easily, right?
Yeah.
So
we got our blue protection effect. I'm also just now looking at like the creatures that people are putting to this deck, and I was like, I mentioned Eldrazi without actually seeing what they put in EDH rec, and boy, did they get the memo. Like, Dear God, a third of these decks are just like Eldrazi Sneak and Show decks. Which, to be fair, you can just play this deck as Sneak and Show.
Jason, you're looking at the wrong commander here. You should be looking at Jorah of the Gitu. That's actually what this deck is. It's Jorah of the Gitu.
Yeah, in many ways, this commander is Jorah of the Gitu. Although I will say that I think better than Jorah. Because Jorah wants you to put the things in your hand and doesn't give you a way to remove the counters.
It is better by quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's viewing her as a card. I want to view her as a commander. Yeah. And Jorah of the Gitu does some good stuff. I can't remember what we as. I think we rated her in the more cute than good section, but we still put her at like a 4.
Well, we rated her as the cute and good because it's hard to remove suspend counters.
Oh, we put her as a 3. We just got a lot of suspend support. Do we need to up Jorah to a 4? Or we stick to a 4? Yeah, I think her support went up and that made her better. I don't think she's better, but I think the support got better and I'll bump her to a 4 as a result.
Well, she now just has a strictly better version. David Tennant.
Yeah.
David Tennant is just strictly better Jorah of the Gitu. So...
in isolation, is he strictly better, or once we add in the other color, we're like, yeah, it just gets better?
No, I think in isolation, because...
in isolation?
The biggest downside of suspend is that you have to sit there and wait. Even though it's 7 mana, you are bypassing that sitting and waiting. So... ah, yes, Training Grounds.
Yeah, that's one of the nice things on Jorah is you get to utilize stuff like Training Grounds. You can utilize it here too, to a reasonable degree. I don't know if I would say better, but reasonable for sure. Okay, so in isolation, and also
he's probably based on how we rate partners, probably a 5. Like, baseline, I think this is a 5 deck. Regardless of what colors get added.
In isolation, putting it at a 5 and then saying it gets better with the more stuff you add to it.
Yeah.
I think that is pretty close to reasonable. I wouldn't be against putting it at baseline 4, but... because I do think 5 mana plus needing to attack is a little tough, but you can also just have things in play already before this comes down to get your trigger.
Also, Jason, I am very, very tilted at your lack of
these
having
are not
the
in number
doctors
order?
In number order, yes.
Yeah, too bad. It's alphabetical, but the whole thing is alphabetical. We're staying alphabetical.
Jason, it actually tilts me.
You're welcome. I don't think this commander gets much better optimized, honestly.
No.
I think it's pretty hard to do that. The support here... support's good at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have the top deck manipulation to try to get good things. The support is a little clunky due to the casting from exile stuff. Adding in the top deck manipulation is something that we get compared to what Jorah got, but Jorah got card advantage, but I think it kind of evens out.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and say the support is an 8.
So, Trekkie, the whole reason why Jorah got power crept out is literally because you get to add a color. That is it.
That's honestly one of the main reasons. I will also add, though, that Jorah also is a, 13-year-old card, 14-year-old card?
And was still kicking?
And it was doing fine. It's not amazing. And it got better.
Yeah.
Flexibility here. That's pretty good flexibility, honestly. I don't think I need to put more notes for 10th Doctor.
Maybe like their partner pairings, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, Rose Tyler's.
It's Rose Tyler, and it's not close, but...
green is also a good option.
Mm-hmm.
Claire Thomas for, I think it's Claire Thomas, right?
It's Claire Thomas for green / whatever. Or Claire Oswald, you mean.
Claire, yeah, there we go.
Yeah. There you go. Yep. V's got us.
Is good for adding black. And I do think black is actually a pretty significant improvement to these decks because of the ability to play with black tutors then, like Imperial Seal. And also the fast mana. So there's actually an argument that maybe Clara is better, but Rose hits like a truck, man.
Rose kills people. Like, goodness gracious.
Yeah. I will put up Rose is probably the best pairing. I would need to explore Clara Oswald's stuff a little bit more. Because, God, she hurts.
I don't even know that she's best for adding black. Just adding green with her is...
No, I mean specifically for adding,
For adding black, yes.
Yeah, for adding specifically black to the deck, which I think is really important when you get to just go, okay, cool, Imp Seal, put Peer into the Abyss on top of my deck, swing, put that, and then find a way to remove 2 time counters, or remove all 3 of the time counters, cast Peer into the Abyss, and win. I think that's really important! Or just high rolling into something like Peer into the Abyss.
Yeah.
Black offers a lot for this color combination, or for this commander specifically. So I'd be interested in exploring something like that. But also, there's so many commanders. There's so many.
There's way too many combinations here.
What next, my friend?
Let's just talk about her. Let's just talk about Rose.
We want to talk about Rose?
Just talk about Rose. Since we're already here.
Okay, so this is going to be a weird one. Rose in isolation is not that good.
Rose is terrible as a doctor's companion, unless you have David Tennant.
Yeah. White suspend cards are bad. Just outright, white suspend cards are bad. So the way you're getting time counters onto her are rough. Like, really rough. She needs to be paired with a doctor who can put a lot onto her. And that's going to be reflected in her score. She's going to have a really low score here. But you got to keep in mind that, her score is basically take her score, add it together, or do some weird math to find a more accurate number for, because when paired with the 10th Doctor, for example, I would say that deck is just baseline 7.
Easily.
Yeah,
if not higher.
Easily baseline 7.
If not
maybe
higher,
an 8.
You just hurt people with that deck.
So, I would give her 1, maybe 2. Probably 2.
I'm gonna give her 2.
I think she's okay.
Yep.
This is, reminder, evaluated in isolation. With consideration that we can add 2 colors at any point.
Which you're always going to want to add Izzet to her. Because the best cards for time counters are in blue and red.
Yeah, so, I mean, I would say at minimum, make sure you're adding green, which is almost a requirement. You could do, pair her with the Fugitive Doctor and have a Naya deck, but it's almost a requirement that you can build the deck as...
You mean red? You said green.
All right, red. Well, you can build red-green with her if you wanted to, and have the Fugitive Doctor to have a Naya deck. But you basically just always want blue. Blue is so important to playing with all these suspend cards.
Plus, you get the what is it? The vanishing thing that splits off and makes more vanishing things. Chronozoa. Greatest card ever.
Yeah. And alright, support's really low here. We're talking a 4 on the support.
Oh, 100%. It's bad. Flexibility, she adds next to nothing, flexibility-wise.
Yeah, her on her own has no flexibility, and she's not very good. But when you pair her with any And quite frankly, any blue commander. Because I'm really not picky on saying that we need the red stuff. I think any blue commander will make this just sing.
Yep.
So there we are. We spoke about them. All right.
Food chain?
Are we talking about food chain stuff now?
Do we want to talk about food chain?
I kind of want to save the doctors for a different stream.
All right. We can go back to our normally scheduled.
No, or back to our normally scheduled 2-color and 3-color pairings.
Yep.
Because it won't take too long. Well, okay, it will take some time to get through the 3-color pairings, but all right, back to Jenny.
Back to Jenny.
Jenny. Okay, maybe a hot take. I don't think she's actually that bad.
No.
I think she is a perfectly reasonable commander, honestly. 4-mana double striking 2/3, dealing combat damage to explore. She will get big on her own in isolation. She's just a scaling double striking threat that occasionally draws you a land.
Mm-hmm.
And she also sets up some graveyard synergy. You can throw equipment on her. I don't think equipment's great on her, but that's probably what most people who are doing this are doing her as.
I don't know. It has double strike, Jason. It has to go be good with equipment.
Okay. I've changed everything I just said, now actually getting to look at the EDH rec. To all of the people who are playing Tectonic Reformation and Seismic Assault, playing this as a red-green lands discard deck, I love you. 2 explores. You are my new favorite people. Whoever you are out in the world playing it this way, you are my new favorite people to play red-green lands.
Playing this as a red-white lands deck?
Or yeah, sorry, red-white lands. That's so...
That's great. I love you.
This is... Okay, I was not considering the random lands synergy. Does this change the perspective now that we know we're drawing lands to fuel other cards? There's not a lot of land synergy that we get to work with.
No.
We only got a few effects. We are in white, so we do get to tutor them. Not too poorly, but not great.
We tutor them to our hand super easy, right? So
kind of. I mean, we have Idyllic Tutor and Enlightened Tutor. So it's not too hard to get them into hand.
Yeah.
And we are also, if we are exploring reasonably well, we will be digging towards those cards with some frequency.
Kelvin, you missed the David Tennant discussion, unfortunately.
Yeah, Kelvin, unfortunately, you've missed a fair bit. We went through all the monocolor commanders. We've gone through half of the 2-color commanders, including things like Rakdos and Dimir, where we had all of the master. So you missed those discussions, and you've also missed talking about David Tennant and Rose Tyler. Now we've gotten onto Jenny here, and we were expecting to be kind of more of a generic equipment deck or double strikey, tempo-y style deck, and have discovered that this is actually, most people are playing this as a lands deck, and that's fucking sick.
All 3 out of the 7 of you lads that have built this deck, we salute you.
This is actually really cool, and I do like a lot of what they're trying here. I do think we're short on the synergy pieces.
Mm-hmm.
White offers nothing from this, because it is kind of funny if you don't play the lands, right? Land tax is suddenly one of your best enchantments.
Yeah.
How many people are actually playing land tax? That's a real question. Only one of these decks is playing land tax. I would be putting land tax in my deck. But then again, I'd maybe optimizing it or not. I do see Assemble the Legion and Cathar's Crusade here.
Hell yeah, brother.
Also gets to be kind of a weird red-white Enchantress deck. Okay, this is fascinating. This is fascinating design space. I absolutely fuck with this. I don't know. I should say I don't think it's good, but
I'm gonna go 3-4 just for you, Jason.
Endless Horizon, so you can just rip mountains and gas. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Is it a 3-4? Yeah, it's probably about a 3-4. I don't think this is bad. I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's bad. I think the support's pretty lacking. It's about a 7 on the support. Actually, probably a 6 on the support. We're doing something pretty hard for the color combination. But otherwise, we could also just be playing an equipment deck. And we could just be playing, like, or just straight up Stompy with some card draw built in, which is okay.
But it's not even card draw that you want to have, though, is the thing.
That is true. And putting this stuff into the graveyard, red-white's not the best abuser of graveyard synergies.
Yep.
Red's not bad at it, but white's pretty bad at it. All it's got is, like, weak reanimation effects. Flexibility's pretty good here. 5? 6, maybe? About a 3 here. Because she herself is... Well, honestly, she's kind of holding up the deck here. Oh, but she's still not that good, though. Alright.
Can we... Pictures? Can we stop for 1 second?
We might also get some Explorer support with Ixalan here. That might change some of the ratings. We'll see.
Think we do?
Yeah, I highly doubt it, since Explorer is primarily in...
Simic colors, right?
In Simic colors, right? So it's not really likely that red-white's getting that support. But maybe.
Dugen.
Alright, Dugan, you say. Any other Simic guys in here? Nope, just Dugan.
I love the activated ability so much. It's so great that it's so bad.
Most important punch in history. This is, I'm sure, a reference that Whovians are just frothing at the mouth for. I do not know what it is. Activate only once.
Yep. He has exactly 1 punch in the show. It's a very important scene, but also
understandable.
You Falcon Punch something once, Jason,
and that's great. I do genuinely appreciate that.
I also like that it
think...
investigates when it ETBs or attacks.
Dugan versus Sirach cage match, absolutely. Let's get that going. Okay, what are we actually doing here, though? Like, trying to attack with Dugan?
We're making clues when he ETBs or attacks.
Astute observation. This is just not great, though.
No, it's
right?
bad.
Like,
it's bad.
So it's like we took the worst elements of Lannis and the worst elements of Tishana, put them together, and then added an attack trigger. And...
Yeah. That's my exact thoughts on this.
But it's Simic, so
Exactly. 4. 4 because Simic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it, but it does feel like maybe a 4. Because I can't ignore the fact that it's like, we're doing some actually decent stuff here. Also, I'm bumping Tishana up to a 5.
Yes, I agree.
That was just undervalued. Tishana's a better commander than we give credit for. We just never see Tishana. She's just not popular, which doesn't mean she's not good. The support is honestly not that good either. I mean, it's not terrible. It's not great.
I need to just use the Chandler school of evaluating cards. Does it say draw a card? It's probably good.
It's probably playable, at least.
Yeah, it's probably a 5.
Oh man, this is the best chair type commander.
Is it? Oh my god, it does have a chair in it.
Yeah. There we go. We found its niche. Okay, on to the world of Grixis.
Oh, now cards I actually have to think about. Don't worry.
Yes, this requires a fair bit of thought, these Grixis commanders. Alright, Ashad the Lone Cyberman. 1 and a Grixis for a 3/3 legendary artifact creature Cyberman. The first non-legendary artifact spell you cast each turn has casualty 2, which means as you cast it, you can sacrifice a creature of power 2 or greater. If you do, copy the spell, and the token, or the copy becomes a token. Whenever you sacrifice another creature, put a 1/1 counter on Ashad.
So this is just like on Hello. We remove any other bit of flavor text. The first thing is all that matters. So
pretty much, yeah. The last ability is not irrelevant, but it's not good, or it's not great, I should say, because we're probably not utilizing these 1/1 counters that much unless we're doing something really interesting with Agatha's Soul Cauldron or something. And even then, that's questionable.
Yeah.
Do you sacrifice? No, you exile the token copies with Myriad stuff, but that's a interesting interaction at least to give you some more tokens to work with.
There is also just a ton of artifact creatures that are 2 power. Or
yes. Which is nice. The other nice thing is, like, you just need recursive creatures. Like, one of the things about Hello decks is they play stuff like Dog to Detective, just because it's a repeatable sacrifice, a creature they can repeatedly sacrifice. Jadar is a good card in these decks. Even though it's not a great card. Why is Snuff out here? Oh, because it's in the precon. That's why. That's just a different
card, Jason. Come on.
So we're just playing more artifacts. It's kind of generic artifact tokeny things. It kind of reminds me of Mishra more than it reminds me of Hello, but Mishra is much easier to work with.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, because it's also Ashad specifies the first non-legendary spell you cast. So that's actually kind of a downside here. It's only the first one.
But it's also decently easy to flash artifacts in.
Yeah, artifact. I mean, this feels like artifact creature punchies. It does some okay stuff. It doesn't do the combo lines that Mishra does. Don't think we're taking extra turns particularly easily here with like Time Sieve or something.
Nope.
We just have good. We have good interactive spells, but we have that in both of those. I think this is the worst of the 3 commanders we've mentioned here. I think Ashad is the worst, and Hello's the second best, and Mishra is the best.
And it's not close between Mishra and Hello, unfortunately.
No. Is Ashad still an average deck normally?
I think it's still a 5.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I don't think it's optimization.
You're being asked
much
to
better.
play artifacts at the bare minimum.
Yeah. And I will say that Hello is a hard deck to play. Like, Hello requires a lot of things going decently well, but you just have to navigate to get to that point. Alright. On to the cult.
On to the cult.
On to the cult.
I like this card.
Cult of Skaro. My hot take is this card is not as bad as many people think it is. But
the value that you get, regardless of what happens, is still good.
Yeah, let me read out very quickly. It's 4 mana for 4/4 legendary artifact creature, Dalek. Whenever it attacks, choose one at random. You either put a 1/1 counter on each artifact creature you control, you draw 2 cards, you make a 3/3 Dalek, or each opponent loses 4 life. All of these are well worth an attack trigger.
Yep.
Like, these are all good things to see on an attack trigger. The weakest of them is probably the 1/1 counters on each artifact creature you control, which still makes the cult better.
It also makes your tokens better.
Yeah. I will say, I think this commander is weaker than Ashad. But I don't think it's a bad commander. I think it's just a little subpar. Like, I think this is like a 4 for me. It's just... yes, perhaps it is just the people on Reddit and the people in our Discord that sometimes are like very critical of this card. But I've had to defend it way more times than I thought I would have to, because I know it's random and it's 4 options, so it's really hard to plan around them. But like any commander that just says, oh, it attacks and draws 2 cards, like, that's a really good mode if you run into it. Almost at any point, you'd be happy to hit that mode, right? Each opponent losing 4 life, like, I think people... Actually, I think that's the one that people criticize a lot, that losing 4 life is bad. And like, no, if you're attacking, that's pretty good.
And also, it's each opponent, so that's total net loss, life loss at 12, which is big.
Oh yeah, if this was an ETB option, this card would be, I wouldn't say nuts because it's randomized, but flickering artifact creatures and reanimating them is much easier than trying to get repeated attack triggers out of artifact creatures. So I think this is good. I think it's perfectly fine as a serviceable 4.
4.
It's got about the same support that Ashad does, and has all sorts of different ways to support each of those functions. Because I'm not even mentioning, like, you know, wound reflection style effects to double the damage, or drawing extra cards because you drew cards. Like, it's honestly not bad. It's just not impressive. Oh god, that is an ugly artwork, man. What did you put on screen? That's so bad.
Okay, I'll put his actual artwork on screen.
Alright, Davros, Dalek Creator. Legendary artifact creature, alien scientist, menace. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent create a 3/3 black Dalek artifact creature token with menace for each opponent that lost 3 life or if an opponent lost 3 or more life this turn, then each opponent who did lose 3 life this turn faces a villainous choice of either to you draw a card or that player discards a card. Again, this is a perfectly serviceable commander. I think it's quite solid. 5 or 6 is my immediate area for it.
This card makes me sad.
Why's that?
You know the reason, Jason. We're not putting it on stream, but you know the reason.
Davros is... It's fine stuff. The villainous choice is...
quite good.
Yeah, people don't like to discard cards, so you're going to be drawing cards more times than not.
Yep.
Also, to the 48 of the 200 decks here that are on Dragon's Approach, we salute you. I genuinely appreciate you so much. Can I get some salutes in chat for all the people playing Dragon's Approach Davros? But yeah, this is good. I think this is fine. Yeah, the Loyal Subordinate sets it up pretty easy. It's not too hard to deal 3 damage to an opponent every turn to at least guarantee getting yourself a Dalek that'll make it easier to attack and get more damage through. You can play this tempo-y, control-y, you can play this aggressive. You've got the ability to switch on ahead if you need to. It feels like a 6 to me.
Yeah. It is a 6.
Thanks.
And
thank you.
The rule of Cool for Dragon's Approach makes it a 10 in our hearts, so... Am I wrong, Jason?
No, you're not wrong. That's why it's in the notes.
10 in our hearts for the Dragon's Approach.
Mm-hmm. Flexibility. It's not terribly flexible, but it's not bad, actually. Okay, so we've got 3 more of these Grixis commanders.
Yep.
Missy, who is the face commander of these, right?
No.
She's not? Oh, is Davros the face commander?
Davros should be.
Davros was the face. Okay. Alright, Missy, 3 in a Grixis for legendary creature, Time Lord Rogue. Whenever another non-artifact creature dies, return it to the battlefield under your control face down and tapped. It's a 2/2 Cyberman artifact creature. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent faces a villainous choice. Each artifact creature you control deals 1 damage to that opponent. Or you draw a card and chaos ensues. We don't have... We're going to make the assumption that you're not playing Chase here. So it's just going to draw you a card as opposed to chaos ensues. But obviously this commander would get better if you're playing Chase. Also, it's a 4/5.
I like this a lot more than Davros.
Really? Yeah, I mean, the ability to just kill your opponent's creatures and get a big board as a result is quite good.
And then also, at the worst, you're drawing 3 cards.
True.
Like, every end step.
Yeah, some number of cards being drawn and doming opponents. I mean, damage doubling effects work here. Each artifact creature you control is the one dealing that damage as well. So lifelink lifelink is really the one we care about, but so that matters here as well. Oh, interesting. People are playing the ways to flip creatures face up so that they have functionally never dying things. Oh, I forgot about this.
Mm-hmm.
Right, there's an infinite combo with this commander with Ruthless Ripper. Ruthless Ripper, a black card in your hand, Missy, and Goblin Bombardment kills the table.
Okay, yeah. No, it does.
Yep. There's other morphs that do it as well, so we have yeah, because there's other ones that can reveal for face up for free. You just have to reveal a card to do it, because there's a whole cycle of that. Right. Yeah. I forgot about cards like Dragon's Eye Savant. I played with these things in draft, and they're terrible there, but that's why I was kind of like, what these... I can't remember what the red one is. The red one was pretty bad.
Horde Ambusher.
Yeah, it makes it so the thing can't block, and it's a 2 and a 2/2 otherwise. Yeah, so that's a really... Oh, well, I'm not going to say it's a cheap way to win the game, like, in terms of mana value. But that does add this Aristocrats dynamic, this face-down creatures Aristocrats dynamic that we get to play with, because a lot of people do seem to be just playing this as Morph stud deck. Which also means now we're talking about Pickles combo for Brine Elemental with Vesuvan Drifter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh god, Bane of the Living. Yeah. Yeah. Bane of the Living can create an almost lock on this board. Oh, there's a lot of depth to this commander. Oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember when I said that I think she's a lot better than Davros? I wasn't joking.
I now much more clearly understand why we are of this opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're at a baseline 7, right?
Yes.
Does this go higher? 6-mana commanders always are a little bit rough, but...
You're also in red, blue, and black. I don't think it matters that much.
Right. We can do Dockside Looping potentially, too.
Oh, yeah. Easily.
Yeah. We can just play this as Grixis Control with this artifact combo in it. We can play artifact creatures, aggro sort of stuff. Which I was thinking of it being on par with Davros just as an artifact creature aggro deck.
Mm-hmm.
Or like an artifact creature deck that wants to just utilize Missy's in-step trigger to cause a lot of damage. But this is a lot more depth. Feels pretty 7 to 8 to me.
7-8 split.
I don't know if it actually is a 8. I'm also looking at Sauron like, I don't know. Sauron does a lot as an 8, but also I feel like this is more proactive than Sauron is.
There you go, Jason.
Stop that. I'm still not of the opinion that Sauron's a 9. Shut up.
I am. That card's insane.
I still think people just... I mean, maybe that I need to be doing this 8-9 split nowadays, but people don't put enough ramp into their Sauron decks. If you are not turboing out Sauron, the card is not very good.
Hence why it at least needs to be a 9 on the optimized, but we can fight about that later.
No, we can do that now. You can put it as a 9 on the optimized. Cool. That's fine.
There you go. Now you can give this Missy a 7-8 split without even worrying about it.
Sure. Support's a 10.
Oh yeah.
And that's also because the flexibility is really good. Like we're talking like 6 or 7.
6 or 7 on the flexibility.
Ooh, that's actually because you could just build this as artifact creature aggro, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just rely, like, you accept the fact that you're not going to play the aristocrat strategy. You can just play this as aristocrats. You can play this as the face down stuff. Yeah, I think it deserves at 7. You could just play instants and sorceries control.deck and still have a reasonable deck here.
Yep.
So that's actually really flexible. That's an 8. We have so many different shells and how you want to build it. Even though there's a clearly much better thing you can be doing, it's just like you're not punished for building her suboptimally.
And I think she's the one carrying the deck, not the cards on the deck.
Well, at that point, I would just give her an 8 then.
Yeah, because as we said, with how many different builds, she's still the one making all those builds tick. So
yeah, that's understand. Yeah, like she's really the powerhouse of her own deck. Ooh. Yeah, because like putting her on par with like casual and Nala decks, I think that's reasonable. The combo is. It is also worth mentioning that, you know, part of the reason why I was like, oh right, I remember that she had that combo is because I saw Ruthless Ripper appears in 60% of the decks and Goblin Bombardment's in 60% of the decks. So people are comboing with this deck.
Oh, did I? Oops.
Oh, we delete something.
I accidentally hit spacebar on something.
That's fine. It happens. Is there anything else we need to think about for her? No, we got a couple more. We got a couple more Grixis commanders to talk about that are not nearly as good. And this one's going to be a long discussion, honestly. I might want to skip Ronnie for a second because the discussion on Ronnie will take a minute.
Yeah, we can skip that. We can honestly come back to that one next stream.
Yeah, might need to, because the Ronnie's going to take a really long discussion.
That's
because we have to talk about Goad in a lot of detail.
We have to talk about politicking and yeah.
Whereas here with the next commander, the Valeyard, there is politicking, but the politicking is much easier to work with.
The politicking is bad.
Yeah. There's not many cards that say Villainous Choice on them. In fact, I'm going to go and check that right now.
Sebastian, we already did, I think it was a baseline 7, right? For, let me go check.
A 6 for Cyber Controller? We did do Cyber Controller. And there is a link available for that.
It's a baseline 6 and then an 8.
Optimized. Yeah, optimized for the 8. Because if you just build it as an ISO Rev deck, which people are doing, they've recognized that. Yeah, it's pretty good. So there are only 12 cards that have Villainous Choice on them. And some of them definitely are not cards that you would want in a final build of a deck. Like, the Dalek Emperor is not the best card to put into a deck.
Agreed.
God, they're really high mana value. The cheapest Villainous Choice cards cost 4 mana.
Jesus. Oh, that's so bad.
Yeah, and there's 2 of them cost 7, one of them being the Dalek Emperor, and there's a few that cost 6. The cross synergy here is not great.
And then voting cards are not good.
Yeah, if you I'm gonna pull up Tivit for a second, where we have Tivit. Obviously Tivit's an extremely good CEDH commander, and it's gotten to the point where Tivit is dominating so much that we kind of have to talk about it there. But we have Tivit split as a 6/10, because turns out Tivit's just attack trigger stuff is actually pretty good. But most of the people who build it casually build it as a voting deck, and the voting cards are just bad. Like, they really are just bad cards. They bring down the overall quality of Tivit decks. So the Valeyard will get cut down because of its own voting mechanics. And then the Villainous Choice cards are awkward, and there's not a ton of overlap between the Villainous Choice cards and the voting cards. Yeah, happy to help, Sebastian. So I'm inclined to say it's a 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 2.
I think the Villainous Choice cards are not actually terrible when they get going, but the reliability of you having them is real bad. You just gotta play Grixis Control to try to get there, and it's rough, man. give you that. You have one deck.
Yeah, Tivit is the one weird deck where you actually have to counter the mana sources and not the Tivit itself.
Yes.
And that's something that if you play enough CEDH, you'll learn, but if you're just playing against it casually, you'll never learn that. So
Right. Sitting there and saying, like, oh, Tivit might come down, I need to make sure I Vandal Blast now, is weird. Most people wouldn't think to go for the lower value plays just to delay Tivit, but that's what you need to be doing. All right, so we're going to skip the Ronnie for today, or and come back to it later?
I think we need to, because that's
going to
be like at least a 30-minute conversation on goading.
Yeah, maybe not full 30, but I would dedicate a minimum 15 minutes to just talking about the Ronnie.
Yeah.
All right, so then that leaves us with...
Jason, I've got us a podcast episode.
The final discussion of Goad.
Of Goad, yeah.
I am actually down to talk about goading as a podcast episode. That'd be interesting.
Nothing in Naya. There is one in Bant. And quite a good one in Bant.
Face of Bow, we do have to talk about our one Bant commander here.
He's good.
Alistair the Brigadier. 4 mana in Bant for a 3/3 legendary creature human soldier. Whenever you cast a historic spell, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token, and whenever he attacks, you may pay 8. If you do, creatures you control get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of historic permanents you control. So, legendaries and artifacts, and some sagas occasionally.
Yeah, we don't care about sagas. It's legendaries and artifacts.
Yep. And also, we want to ramp. We just want to ramp.
Yep. Which... Granted, artifacts.
Yeah, pretty easy to do. Most people looking at here are building this as like legendary creatures deck, right? We've got Flowering the White Tree, Pippin, and Myrel, Shield of Argive.
That's exactly how I would be building this deck.
Yes, Amy, we talk about Cult of Skara. We gave it a 4/4. People like to dunk on that card more than they should, even though all of the attack triggers are actively good for you. Yes, it's randomized, but like it's still just a really good value engine on its own. And then we have a lot of like artifact creatures in here rounding out the deck. It's pretty straightforward, honestly. It's just kind of good cards.
Just good cards to the deck.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in Bant, so you have a lot of insanely good cards to the deck.
Yep. I think Alistair's baseline is a 5.
Easily.
Like, it's 5. We can debate whether it goes higher. I don't think it hits a 7, so it's really debated between a 5 or a 6.
I think it can go a 5-6 split.
I don't think there's a point in doing a split.
Okay.
It does have some flexibility, but I don't know if it's actually really improving much.
Because I actually think Bant Legendaries is quite good. I think it's above average, just because...
Yeah. I'm actually very curious about something here. One of the awkward things on this card is if you generate infinite mana, you need to be able to generate it on an attack trigger, like in combat.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to go for a quick and easy way of doing it. There's a card that if you play Gaia's Cradle and... I'm blanking on the name of this card, but it's a like 3 or 4. I think it's a 4 mana card that taps to untap 2 target lands you control.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, the combo that you can do to generate infinite mana on your attack step. Or, well, technically any point during combat, because you just have a Maze of Ith to untap it. Or Reconnaissance. Actually, no, Reconnaissance removes from combat, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Anyway, I think it's probably just a 5. I think it's a good, clean Bant commander. It can do some punchies. It's pretty easy to read what's happening, though. Like, the legendary creatures don't have great synergy with each other. They're just legendary.
But like I said, I think it's still a 6. And
you think so?
The reasoning is it just gets better.
That's true. It's only going to improve. kind of getting ahead of the curve then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fine then. I don't really object to that.
Like it's
Elder something. Yeah, it's like Argothian Elder or something.
Yeah.
You have all the support you would like. Maybe a 9 on support, but it's pretty high up there.
You have all the flexibility in the world, almost.
I wouldn't say you have all of it. Like, you are still restricted to historic permanents, which means you have legendaries, and because you want to be attacking and generating mana, that does restrict you on what you want to play with. But it's not terrible flexibility. It's a 4. Like, we know what we want.
I like him. He's going to punch people. People are going to die, so punchies will be had.
Punchies indeed have been had and will be had.
Just
all right, so these are probably going to be our last 2 for the day.
Yep.
All right, Kate Stewart first, and then we'll talk about Face of Bow.
All right, Kate Stewart is awesome.
Okay. 4 mana and Jeskai for a 3/3 legendary creature human scientist. Whenever you put 1 or more time counters on permanent you control, create a 1/1 soldier. And whenever she attacks, pay 8. If you do, attacking creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of time counters among permanents you control.
Wait a minute. I think I've
this
seen this
looks
before.
familiar. I will say that this is worse than...
this is infinitely worse.
It's much worse. It's cool, but it's much worse.
Yeah.
It's a little hard to get them onto your permanents. Will point out that there is a card that has been spoiled for Ixalan that improves this card quite a bit. It's that, like, Doomsday Calendar thing.
The best card in the set, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure we were both of the same opinion.
Yeah. So we have to play a bunch of Vanishing cards in this deck, which obviously Vanishing is awkward because you're progressively losing counters as the game goes on. We're not playing green, so getting to 8 mana is a lot harder. Not that 8 mana is, like, super easy to do anyway. That's interesting. Out of Time is probably one of your best cards, but also you'd have to Out of Time before you get your own thing into play, and then you need to be casting more cards to get your board back then to eventually get to attacking. This is rough. Like, honestly, this is hard to do.
Yeah, it's hard. It's cool.
This is what, like 2 or 3?
I'm gonna put it as a 2.
Put it as a 2?
I'm gonna put it as a 2.
Yeah, it's just... man, it is hard to get time counters on permanents. Getting them into exile is not too bad, but getting them on permanents is rough. Yeah, I don't think we really just don't have much to work with here. All right. Bow.
All right, the card everybody actually cares about for all the non-doctors.
The Face of Bow. Alright. We have a 1 and a Jeskai for a 0/4 legendary creature, Alien Advisor. Tap. You may cast a spell with Suspend from your hand. If you do, pay its suspend cost rather than its mana cost. Activate only as a sorcery. Okay.
Yeah.
There is a lot we can do with this.
I like playing Actual Factual Balance, Jason, don't you?
Actual Factual Balance is a pretty good card, I hear. Not to be too much of a spoiler, but yes. Yes, we have gotten the balance yet. You may want to watch one of our set release videos.
I watched that as that happened. It was funny. It was very funny.
Yep. Worth noting here, when you do suspend a thing and then you cast it off of suspend, it does gain haste if it's a creature. You will not be gaining haste with Face of Bow. That said, there's pretty decent cards you can cast for their suspend costs. Like 3 mana 8/8s are pretty good.
I don't know. I heard Ancestral Recall is also a very good Magic card, Jason. Would you concur?
I would concur that Ancestral Recall is in fact a good Magic card. It's crazy how that works. That said, this also one of the downsides of playing with suspend cards is they are certainly a hodgepodge of cards. Like,
Oh yeah.
they are all over the place in what you're trying to accomplish.
On some we have power 9, but balanced, and then on others,
Gain 20 life.
yeah.
1 mana gain 20 life's pretty good, but it only delays the inevitable. It does not actually interact.
Or we have Aeon Chronicler, which you never want to activate Face Bow to cast that.
Right. Now, remind me, is there something in the game, something new that was created that gives suspend 2 cards in your hand, or no?
I don't believe so.
I cannot remember if there is that. Which does help if it is offering a cost reduction. I could also see them saying, like, oh yeah, you gain suspend, but it's just equal to the mana value of the card. And like, why would I play this?
Yeah.
And there's, again, some other cards that are like interesting, but not necessarily what you would want. For example, the Dinosaurs on a Spaceship card. You know, it's a 6 mana 7/7 Vigilance Trample. It gives other dinosaurs you control +1/+1 Vigilance and Trample. And it has a spend 4 for 5 mana. Just casting a 5 mana 7/7 Vigilance Trample is like, okay. It's not good.
But Jason, what about my 1 mana 9/7?
1 mana 9/7's pretty good though. Like, that will just beat some face pretty good. Bow is very weird. It's going to be one of those... Face of Bow is just going to be one of those commanders that's like... The highs are high, the lows are real low. Because it's probably Joyrot. Yeah, and all that does is just gives it the ability after the fact. It doesn't put it into your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Like, gives it into your hand, right? So... And that doesn't really work. Wins any beauty competition. You know...
I mean, with a face like this... They ain't wrong.
I mean, as long as the mama's the judge, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Man, that's a...
It's so hard. Like, this is actively hard to evaluate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's also another thing to mention. This is a tap commander. You can only do it at sorcery speed. It has no power. It needs haste to really function. That's not the hardest thing to do because we're in red. But those haste spells aren't necessarily helping what the rest of the deck wants to do. So you just get this jumble of value. It's interesting. Jeskai Ascendancy colors, absolutely. Jeskai Ascendancy is one of the cards that does some interesting stuff with it. Although a lot of your suspend cards are not instants or sorceries, they're actually creatures. So, again... awkward. Not terrible, just awkward. I think Bow ends up being a below average deck in the end. But it's not a bad below average deck. It's just not as good as what most decks are doing.
Your lows are too low to outweigh balancing people for 1 mana.
Right. And of course, also worth mentioning that balancing somebody for 1 mana is not necessarily going to win you the game. It's going to do some good stuff, but it won't necessarily win.
Mm-hmm. Jason, I just read what this new Gandalf does.
Yeah, that's a card that I have not put those cards on here yet because they haven't released. I probably should start doing that because we do need to evaluate them too. That card does a lot.
That card's really good.
Yeah, Gandalf of the Secret Fire is real good. I was also going to be very disappointed if they didn't make a Jeskai Gandalf. That feels like the perfect color commander perfect color combination for that commander.
That card seems insane, actually. Not even just quite good, like insane.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Bow Force. Yeah. Supports. Not terrible, but it's for a 3-color deck to only have a 6 or to have an 8 in support. It's a little surprising, given what we get to work with. Flexibility is a 1. We have 1 build. And Bow is what makes the deck good. No notes. I got nothing more to add there. And I believe that is all of our 3-color commanders minus the Rani, because the Rani is going to take a long... Oh, no. We have Face of Me. Or not face of me,
We
me
do-
the Immortal.
We do have a Temur deck.
I forgot about the Temur deck.
It's
I
bad.
have one more.
It's actually not bad.
It's not a bad card. I have to remember exactly what it does, but I remember reading it and being like, this is weirdly fine. Not amazing, but fine. Alright, me Immortal. 5 mana and Temur for a 3/3 legendary creature human rogue. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put your choice of a 1/1 counter first strike, 1/1 first strike, vigilance, menace, or menace counter onto me the Immortal. Counters remain on me as it moves between zones other than a player's hand or library, and you may cast me from your graveyard by discarding 2 cards in addition to paying its other costs.
Yep. Seems fine.
It is very much fine.
I target me.
Yes. All the me jokes in this are the thing that drives me nuts about this commander. Okay, so I don't believe there's any cool combos, because like we don't get to do the super cool like food chain combos with this because we can only cast from our graveyard.
Yeah.
That said, there is a unique thing you can do with Song of Creation, I believe. I'll have to double check the wording on Song of Creation to make sure that it works the way I think it does. Yeah, it's just whenever you cast a spell, not when you cast a spell from your hand. You get to draw 2 cards. So if you have a sack outlet, you can, and a way to cast her for free, or to cast me for free, which is just weird. Yeah, this is basically New Skullbriar at 5 mana. And we get blue as a color for this, which is a pretty big deal.
It's a very big deal.
Yep. I didn't think about this until now. It's a new object when it comes into play.
Yep.
So anytime it enters into play, it would be considered as getting new counters, even though the counters move with it.
I hate it here.
Yeah, the interaction with Doubling Season here, and more importantly, the card that I was really thinking about is all will be one. You should be getting counters every time and being able to double up and do stuff like that, which is cool. It's Temur counters. It's another Temur counters commander.
Effects like Doubling Season won't affect those counters.
Because Doubling Season is an effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but a card like Branching Evolution would work then. Right?
They're not put on that card. They're just already on there. You're not putting counters on there. So.
But Really?
Yep.
Why? It's just considered as always. That's a weird. Okay, so then all will be one and such does not work here,
Yep.
which makes this significantly worse. Okay. I'm gonna have a hard time here.
Now the Oscillith does work, but
yes, that should count. It's just weird interaction here. Okay. Fours? Fives?
Fours, because the cool things don't actually work.
Yeah, the cool stuff doesn't work, and it's a lot of mana to get there. Not too hard to get. Well, I mean, we are in Temur, so it's not that bad to get there. But 5 mana is not where I like to be to start accruing value.
Also, she doesn't naturally give trample, right?
No, I don't believe so. It's First Strike, Vigilance.
Menace.
Yeah, First Strike, Vigilance, and Menace. Odd selection.
Yeah, if she gave trample, oh goodness, this would actually be a card. But
hold on, wait. Okay, so any of these colors could do the 1/1 counter thing. First Strike is a red contribution to the card. Vigilance is a blue or a green contribution to the card, and Menace is a red contribution to the card.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't really... Yeah, I don't think you get Menace in green. At least not very often, right?
Menace is entirely red out of this color combination.
This card's weird.
Yeah.
This card's weird.
It should have been trample counter.
Yeah.
Instead of Menace.
Just up base, though, without looking too much into it, would we consider this better than Skullbriar or on par with Skullbriar? I don't remember what we evaluated Skullbriar at, but worth noting, since that's our most close comparison.
It has better colors. Man, it just has better colors for what it wants to do.
True. I mean, both of them have green, which is, like, the most important thing. We get blue and red, which both are kind of tertiary to the 1/1 counter stuff. Like, again, I know we talked about the blue 1/1 counter stuff with that mono blue guy from earlier, but blue still does struggle with getting 1/1 counters onto things.
Mm-hmm.
It's good at proliferating them when they're already there, but it struggles to get them on there initially.
That being said, Simic is very good at putting 1/1 counters on things, so therefore...
Through... Yeah, Skullbriar with haste. I feel like Skullbriar probably is a little bit better than me, the Immortal. But I also don't... Like, I kind of view the casting from Graveyard as flavor text that's not quite flavor text.
Yeah.
It's like, it's nice, but honestly, more times than not, I'll probably just send to the command zone.
It comes down on turn 2 for building faster, except it doesn't build that... I don't know. Both builds that fast, but doesn't build that fast.
Yeah, Skullbriar is weird, because it's like, coming down on turn 2 does mean that almost every time it's going to be swinging. The funny thing is that sometimes on turn 3, Skullbriar can't swing, because people just put out 2 3s, and it's just like, oh, I can't play the game anymore. Or you have to start spending removal, and you don't get card advantage. But you don't get card advantage here either. The card advantage is the counters you're gaining in your beginning of combat step, which red beginning of combat steps are helping here.
So I actually don't agree with that. The OG is better for taking heads, because you have red and blue for protection. Not having access to counter spells is actually a huge deal for Skullbriar, because that is a lightning rod for removal. So,
yeah. Although getting it out of your graveyard. That's an awkward one. I feel like they are in many ways on par with each other.
Yeah.
Which is important the way I brought that up then, because we put Skullbriar as a 3.
I think she's a 3.
Do you think Skullbriar remains a 3, or do you think
I think
me is a 3?
I think both of them are 3s.
Both are 3s.
Yeah.
That's reasonable. I'm honestly perfectly fine with that. It's not terrible, but it's just not good. And now I can go back and say we reevaluated Skullbriar.
Yep, still a 3. It's more cute than good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do know about the like indestructible counters and stuff that you can get. Like, Temur has more access to random counters that you can get overall than like just random flying counters over here is pretty easy to do. The lifelink and indestructible counter, particularly the indestructible counter, is a really nice thing for Skullbriar, but it's only like one card that gives indestructible counters.
Yep.
Yeah. And any of the things that are related to like potential indestructible with divinity counters, I think, are mostly in white, and the divinity giving that ability is not inherent to the divinity counter. It is so long as that permanent remains in play, the divinity counter provides indestructible.
Shield counters are kind of there. They're more here for me. So,
I mean, shield counters are also way more available in blue-green than they are in green-black.
Yeah.
And right, but anything that you can put on Skullbriar in green is also existing for me, the Immortal. So like we got to look at the more so with the stuff in blue and red and what's in black, right? And I do understand that the Skullbriar is coming down earlier, which matters. It really does matter. But me gets all of those same things if we want to give me those things. So I really appreciate that you're running through these and thinking about it. but we do need to find like the synergy points, and it's worth noting like Me the Immortal is going to be able to get flying counters very easily because of things like what were in Ikoria. Yeah, missing lifelink counters does hurt, but flying counters are big. Like, I would personally prefer to have a flying counter over a lifelink.
A Flample Menache creature, even if it doesn't have 1/1 counters, is massive.
Yeah. But in either case, they're both hard to set up still.
Yeah.
Like, it requires a lot of things to go right. Although I think the starts for Skullbriar are more consistent, but the end game for me is more consistent. So it's interesting. But in the end, both of them are kind of awkward just to set up because, hooray, counters! I could just be drawing cards in Temur.
I could be playing actually insane commanders in Temur.
Yeah, you just play Animar. You're like, oh, Rashwing Ragavan, that's our insane commander?
I wish it was good. I would really.
I do wish that commander was good.
It makes me so sad that the monkey is not good.
There's no random 5-color commander. We do have the partner commanders, but we will get to the actual factual partners later. It is 10:20 my time. I am ready for ending for the day.
All right.
Chat, thank you all very much for joining us today. We really appreciate y'all coming out and enjoying this. We will see if in 2 weeks' time we have a stream, maybe. But that would be the earliest that we would be able to do it. And once we do get to that point, we're going to be pretty quickly on the heels of Ixalan.
We might do a big long stream for when that eventually happens, just so we can catch up.
Yeah, there may be a day that we have to try to get in like a 6-hour stream sort of day, but it's hard to talk for 6 hours. I'm feeling my voice we've now hit the 3-hour mark, or 3.5 hours. I'm feeling it.
I can feel it even with all the water I've drank.
Mm-hmm. Me over here with nothing but tea. I should have gotten water before I started. I always do.
All right, chat. Thank you all for coming and joining. Reminders. Give the stream a like if you enjoyed the content. Also, remember, we do have a Discord, and people are nice, and we enjoy talking to all of you, and potentially discussing more Zur Scale stuff there.
Yeah, I'm actually about to start in Zur Scale chat for about Goad specifically, because we have to talk about the Rani. So I want some good arguments on that. This may end up being like a structured debate.
Yeah. I do kind of want to do a podcast episode on just talking about coding.
I think that's going to happen. All right. So that's all I got. Reminder, Discord. Financially, we got a Patreon, but honestly, you do you know? Mm-hmm. Also, Dragon Shield's got their new shop. That's a cool thing, too. Did we update our affiliate link? I don't think we did.
We'll have
to update it.
Not in the stream. We can update it in a bit.
I can update it in a bit. All right. Y'all take care. Have a great night.